Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another episode of Haqiqatjou, where we discuss religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. As always, I am your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and today we are going to respond to a video that was published yesterday by our brother Uthman bin FAROOQ, in which he is criticizing a video that I put out and statements that I put out about pan-Islamic unity. Specifically, unity between Sunni and Shia in order to counter Western imperial and Zionist forces. And Uthman, the actual length of the video is about 25 minutes or 26 minutes or thereabouts. And today we're going to go through that video point by point, and I'm going to provide context, I'm going to respond, I'm going to provide counter evidence to some of the claims that he's making. And we're going to just deep dive into this whole issue of sectarianism, pan-Islamic unity, the crisis of the Middle East or West Asia, and what the US and Israel are doing to Muslims. So these are the things that we're going to cover in today's show. If you have a comment that you'd like to prioritize for me to read at the end of the show, you can submit a super chat. The super chats help the show. They help with the production costs of the show. Appreciate everyone in the chat. I'm going to be looking at your chat as well during the reaction, inshallah. And, this is a very serious issue. As I have stated over and over again, that the entire strategy of the United States and Israel is divide and conquer. Divide the Muslims into factions based on sect, on race, on ethnicity, in order to weaken the Muslims and make it easier to invade, to occupy, to genocide. That has been the strategy from the beginning of the colonial period in the early, at the end of the 18th century, early 19th century. It has continued, through Sykes-Picot, post World War I. It has continued with the Yinon Plan in 1980 from Odette Yinon, this Israeli advisor who published his plan or his strategy for how Israel can secure its interests in the Middle East and become a hegemonic power in the Middle East, is divide and conquer. So this has been the name of the game. If our biggest enemies are using divide and conquer against us, isn't the weapon that we can use to fight back unity, pan-Islamic alliance, putting aside sectarian differences, nationalistic differences, ethnic and racial differences for the sake of unifying against a common threat? Like, isn't this logical, just from a purely logical or maslaha basis? What's for the greater good? Beyond that, this is what Islam actually calls to. This is what the Quran and Sunnah require of Muslims, to come together against a common threat. And this is something that I have debated and argued, made countless videos and tweets about over the past 2.5 years to justify. And I've even debated. I have had formal debates on this issue, and I refer you to all of that material. And today we're just continuing that line of argument. I'm going to bring more evidence. I'm going to bring you more data points for you to factor into this equation. And, ideally, I would have liked to have our brother Uthman with me here today so we could have had a dialogue, a discussion. I invited him for this on X, and he did not respond to that. That's fine. Maybe in the future, I have an open door policy, an invitation. If brother Uthman would like to come on stream and we can have a discussion, maybe it's something that even Sneeko could moderate or host, because Sneeko, of course, is very much in favor of pan-Islamic unity, alhamdulillah. So we both know Sneeko, and he would be a good host for that, inshallah. So I'm going to play the video from Uthman, and we're going to be reacting and providing evidence and counter arguments, inshallah. And let's get right into it. So I'd like to first preempt what we're going to discuss by noting that Brother Uthman has actually changed his stance. It seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like he's changed his stance, and I'm going to give you some evidence of what his stance was before. So here is one data point. This is a video that he put out this year. I think it was March 1st, basically right as the war broke out and the US and Israel attacked Iran. He put out this video, and let's watch it.
LGBT. In one word, which country benefits from the United States attacking Iran and a weakened Iran?
Israel.
Why are we, as the United States, working for a foreign nation? Why are we attacking a country, putting millions of Americans at risk, putting millions of people in the Gulf at risk, bombing girls' schools where 63 girls going to school were killed and 92 others injured for Israel? Why? This is not what Trump was elected for. This is not what the American people want. Millions, if billions of dollars of tax money is going towards working for the interest of a foreign country. Stop the war.
All right, so saying stop the war. He's opposed to war on Iran. He is explaining that Israel is the aggressor. Israel is actually pushing the US into this because they're the main benefactor of this. So this is what he put out immediately. And he got a lot of backlash for this, actually. Rabbi Faris came out and attacked him. And here's the screenshot, I believe. Here you go. Rabbi Faris, okay, himself comes out. Here's one of the main accounts of UTHMAN saying, "Stop war with Iran. Muslims want peace." And then Rabbi Faris says, "Ahl Sunnah refer back to scholars, not ChatGPT, ya UTHMAN. Are you deliberately ignoring the long history between Iran and the Gulf countries? Do you not know what the Rafidah have been trying to do in the region for decades? Okay, may Allah guide you, UTHMAN. Stop trying to score points in every fitna that occurs. Fear Allah. Pray that Allah protects the Muslims and the innocent, and do not meddle in matters far bigger than you. And have some shame. You're making this video in Saudi Arabia." So, I mean, this provides interesting context, I think. Our brother UTHMAN, he received a lot of backlash. He is actually being threatened. Like, this is a subtle threat from Rabbi Faris. Rabbi Faris is an admitted agent of the UAE. He's actually working for the UAE government, which we know is aligned and in partnership with Israel, as we'll explain through the Abraham Accords later in this video, inshallah. So he is not like some random rabbi on the street. This is a rabbi of the UAE government. And he's saying, have some shame. You're making this video in Saudi Arabia, hint, hint. And so this is actually a threat against Uthman bin FAROOQ. And the fact is that Uthman bin FAROOQ does visit Saudi Arabia. He was there at the time of the recording of this video. And who knows, like, what kind of pressure is on Uthman bin FAROOQ, where he is forced now, okay, after a year or after 40 days, basically, almost a month and a half, to kind of pull back, to retract and say, no, we don't support Iran, actually. We don't support Iran. Iran is the one who is the problem. Iran is the problem for the Muslims. Iran has to be criticized, as he puts out. So that's, I think that's very important context, this kind of threat from Rabbi Faris implicitly. And, this is what we say. Uthman got the call. He got the call. And he, that's a lot of pressure for someone to face. Okay, that's a lot of pressure when your life is implicitly being threatened. And a lot of people got the call. I got the call. People like Rabbi Faris himself. Rabbi Faris contacted me. This was way back. And he basically said, do you think it's so wise to criticize these countries, these Gulf countries? Do you think it's so wise? And there was a lot of implication in what he was saying. And, some people when they get the call, they hang it up, or they tell the people to buzz off on the other line. So I got the call as well, but, I'm not someone who can be bullied by these thugs and Khawarij deviants. So anyway, this is the context. Another data point, okay, that I think is even more significant is that you had this statement coming from Uthman bin FAROOQ's organization, an official statement from AIM, Authentic Ilm Mission. And in this statement that was published by Karim Abu Zaid, who is one of the co-founders of AIM, along with Uthman bin FAROOQ, it is a strong statement about unity beyond sectarian divides. That's what this document is titled. And I've posted it in the past. But basically, this whole thing, this whole document is about the idea of upholding justice, fairness, and support for the vulnerable, for victims in Palestine, in Lebanon, whether they're Sunni or Shia, and having a shared solidarity for the greater good by focusing on shared values and rejection of oppression. It says, quote, Muslims can form a powerful coalition for justice without endorsing beliefs that diverge from their own religious principles. So this is principled alliance, principled unity. We're not going to compromise on our religious beliefs, the differences between Sunni and Shi'i theologically, but we can come together and form a powerful coalition for justice. This is what Uthman bin FAROOQ's organization published, and you can see it's on the official letterhead. And here is part of the letter. It's a long letter, and I posted it in full on my social media. I'm just showing you parts. Here's Article 6 of the letter. Acknowledging the noble mission of Shia in resisting Zionism, while we recognize the commendable effort of certain Shia groups in standing against the oppression and injustice imposed by the by Zionist forces, it's crucial to frame the acknowledgement with clarity and understanding. Recognizing the sectarian agenda, though Shia groups are leading resistance efforts against Zionism, their political stances sometimes align with a broader agenda to promote Shia beliefs within Sunni majority regions. While we appreciate their resistance to oppression, we must remain vigilant about their theological aspirations. Okay, acknowledging sectarian differences, there are significant theological divides between Sunni and Shia. Okay. C, appreciating the stance against oppression. While we may disagree with the theological views of Shia groups, some of which verge on polytheism, we can still appreciate their role in resisting the injustices faced by Palestinians and Lebanese. Acknowledging their efforts does not mean condoning their beliefs. It's about recognizing their contributions to the greater cause of justice. D, recognizing contributions amid past conflicts. Although some Shia factions have committed acts of violence against Sunnis, particularly in Syria, we can still appreciate their current opposition to Zionism. This acknowledgement is not an endorsement of their past actions, but a recognition of their present contributions to the fight against systematic injustice. And then clarifying for the Muslim community, many lay Muslims are confused by the complexity surrounding these issues. There's a critical need for clear guidance to help our community understand how to support resistance without compromising our principles. And then F, finally, setting aside sectarian divides in unity. So let me pull this up so you can see it. The struggle against oppression demands unity even across sectarian lines. While differences exist between Sunni and Shia Muslims, there should not be allowed to become barriers to collaboration. A narration by Dhu Mukhmar or Dhu Mukhbir highlights this concept. The Prophet ﷺ foretold a future alliance between Muslims and Christians against a common enemy, which demonstrates the possibility of working together for a just cause despite differences, etc. So it continues. So there can't be, even between Muslims and kuffar, non-Muslims, like Christians, there can be alliance for a greater good. So why not with Shia? No, why not with Shia who are even actually Muslim? They're deviant Muslims, but they're Muslim. So that is, of course, entailed by the Sunnah. And AIM is acknowledging this, and they're saying we have to set aside sectarian divides in unity. That's explicitly what they're saying. So this, what changed, Uthman bin FAROOQ? What changed? Because this is your previous stance, and now you're rejecting this stance. So this is what we're trying to understand. Why? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe to be fair, they did retract this. Okay, AIM did retract this statement pretty much 24 hours after it was published. So they took the time to write all of this, put it on official letterhead, published by Karim Abu Zaid, the co-founder of AIM, published it, and then within 24 hours, they took it down and they issued a retraction. Why? Why was that? Again, do people get the call Did they get the call from higher ups and saying, actually, no, you can't publish this? Even though you're arguing it from the basis of Quran and Sunnah, you're arguing it on the basis of the religion, but actually, no, you can't actually advocate this. You can't actually put this out, even though that it's the Quran and Sunnah. You have to retract. So it gets taken down. So this is what getting the call means in dawah, actually. Okay? And this is something that I've talked about many times. And you viewers of the show know exactly many examples of this. Okay? So let's go back to the reaction. Tweet that has gone viral many times from Ayatollah Khamenei. For example, this tweet is, they pay certain so-called Shia preachers to insult Mother of the Faithful Aisha in the name of Shia. Is this based on Shia teachings? Never. Okay, so like explicit statements like that, and this is part of Taqrib that I mentioned earlier. And even Sistani has a fatwa as well. And they say, and I think it's Sistani's fatwa that says that even in private gatherings, there should be no cursing, there should be no insulting of the Sahaba, with the acknowledgement that they don't necessarily revere some of these Sahaba. They don't revere them. They don't have the same Sunni stance on the Sahaba, but there still shouldn't be any cursing. There shouldn't be any slander. So what is your perspective on this? Is this just taqiyya? Like, what is the background on some of this?
Our stand and our stance with regards to certain historical personalities that Ahl Sunnah revere is clear. We don't revere them. We do not respect them. And yes, we in our hadith culture and within the culture of our imams, is that if a certain personality, for example, was to be someone that we believe is an enemy of Imam Ali, they will deserve that we can make dua against them. Because at the end of the day, la'na is dua. Our fuqaha, our maraja, the likes of Sayyid Khamenei and Sayyid Sistani, they forbid doing such things based upon for the sake of unity. When it comes to the second historical Khalifa, Umar bin al-Khattab, again, our opinion about him is clear. We don't revere Umar bin al-Khattab. We do not respect him. I'm just putting it out there so no one says taqiyya. Sure, you want to give a academic research as to why you think certain personalities are deviant that the Sunnis revere, you go ahead. But at the end of the day, this whole cursing and insulting is only based upon specific timing and places. And what that means is just like, for example, I would act a certain way with my friends, and then when I'm sitting in front of my father, I'm going to talk and act in a certain way. Does that kind of make sense or not really?
Yeah, it makes sense.
What makes sense there, and very interesting, is that this is absolute nifaq. This is hypocrisy. How are you going to sit with such a person? How are you going to give this person a platform? How are you going to unite with what politics is worth sitting and listening to somebody curse and slander the one that Allah praised in the Quran?
All right, so that clip that he's reacting to is based on the video that many of you might have seen, where I interviewed a Shi'i preacher based out of the UK. He's actually Lebanese. He's not Iranian. This is Hassan Qadri. You can go watch it on the channel. And he's pulling out a specific part where I'm asking about this tweet and different fatwa from Shi'i authorities like Sistani, Fadlullah, and also Khamenei. And this tweet in particular, they pay certain so-called Shia preachers to insult Mother of the Faithful Aisha in the name of Shia. Is this based on Shia teachings? Never. Okay, so this is what Khamenei is saying. And I'm asking Hassan, this Shi'i, about this kind of tweet, about these fatwa, and he's clarifying. He's giving the context. because he's addressing a bigger point, or he's addressing a kind of point where someone might say, oh, well, this means that the Shia actually revere and respect Aisha and Abu Bakr and Omar. And that's what he's responding to, and that's what he's saying, no, that's not the case. We don't actually respect these figures, despite like the fatwa, despite this tweet. So here's what Uthman did is, or his editors, is they clipped the full discussion that I was having, and here's the clip that's significant.
Our fuqaha, our maraja, the likes of Sayyid Khamenei and Sayyid Sistani, they forbid doing such things based upon for the sake of unity. So
they forbid publicly and privately insulting the companions. Okay, but what is this? Is this based because they respect the Aisha, Abu Bakr, and Omar, radiallahu anhum? Or is it based on what? And he's saying, no, it's based on this kind of maslahah. It's based on the good of the ummah. So let's listen.
They're saying it's not a matter of taqiyya. They're not saying, oh, look, guys, do it in private, but don't do it in public. What our maraja are trying to say is that, look, the greater and the more appropriate approach to Ahl Sunnah is because the first thing, if you as Ahl Sunnah are going to see the Shi'i, and then, for example, all he does is curse your revered figures, you're not even going to have a conversation. These revered figures are more loved and respected to you than your own mother and father, correct? Would you agree with that? And so I would say, yes, based upon that, our maraja are saying that we shouldn't be doing it because this will cause disunity, this will cause division, this will cause bloodshed.
These people are...
So do you understand that? Like, first of all, he's saying that the fatwa is that public and private, we don't insult, we don't disrespect. And the reason for this is not because we inherently respect these figures. It's because of a greater good. We want to prevent bloodshed. We want to prevent a bigger harm, as we discussed in that interview, of these outside forces, the U.S., Israel, attacking and destroying the ummah. That is the maslahah. That is the greater good. So where is the taqiyya? Like, where is the nifaq and the hypocrisy that Uthman is accusing? He's being transparent. He's actually, this Hassan, again, like, I don't agree with his beliefs. He's a deviant. He's Ahlul Bid'ah. And some of his views are absolutely reprehensible. But he's not doing taqiyya. He's actually being very transparent and saying, if he were doing taqiyya, he would say, when he's talking to me, a Sunni, on my Sunni channel, he would have said, oh, no, we are perfectly good with Aisha, Abu Bakr, and Omar. Like, we have no problem. If he were doing taqiyya, and then in his closet or his room, he would be insulting them. No, he does the opposite. He says exactly what his position is on those individuals, on the mother of the believers and Abu Bakr and Omar radiallahu anhuma. So this is the opposite of taqiyya. I don't understand what Uthman is referring to here. And, you know, the full clip makes it clear, the full context. And I'm not saying that Uthman selectively clipped this. I'm sure an editor put it in front of him and had him react. So maybe he's just reacting to what he saw. But, you know, you should look at the full context because it's clear what is actually being discussed. It's the opposite of taqiyya. He's saying that the highest Shia authorities have changed their stance on this issue for the sake of the greater good, for the greater good of the ummah. That is what he is claiming. And yeah, so I don't see what's the taqiyya here.
They're playing politics with us. They're not sincere with any of these unity things. They are playing. Let me ask you a question. If people are talking about Iran and how they are supporting the Palestinian people in 1948, When the Palestinian people's land was stolen and they were displaced, where was Iran? When the Arab lands, Egypt and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, and when they came together to put boots on the ground and fight Israel at that time, in 1948, where was Iran? It was working with the US and Israel. In 19...
Yeah, that's true. In 1948, Iran was working with the United States and Israel. Yeah, that actually is the case. But Iran wasn't an Islamic republic in 1948. It wasn't the country ruled by Shia clerics in 1948. It became run by Shia clerics in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution, with Ayatollah Khomeini taking over and the Islamic Republic being established. Prior to that, it was the Pahlavist regime, or it was a secularist regime before that, or you know, transitioning from Reza Pahlavi to Mossadegh with the kind of socialist system, and then you had the son of Reza Pahlavi, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was very closely aligned with the U.S. and Israel as well. And then in 1979, that came to an end with the Islamic Revolution. So, this is not a critique of current day Iran to say that they didn't support Palestine in 1948. So I don't know what, maybe, you know, we can't all be experts in everything. And our brother Uthman, he's very good in being able to debunk the Bible and show, you know, contradictions in the Bible, and really show a lot of these Christians in the parks and the streets of New York or London, how they're mistaken, how the Trinity doesn't make sense. That's all great dawah work, but history is maybe not his strong suit. So it's really not a point against Iran that it didn't support Palestine in 1948. Like, that would be a good critique against Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and his father, but not Ayatollah Khomeini or Khamenei or anyone with the Islamic Republic today.
56 and 1967 and 1973, every time that there was armed conflict, where was Iran? Nowhere to be found.
Yeah, so a very simple Google search. When was the Iranian Revolution? Okay, it took place between 1978 and 1979. So all of the conflicts that he's mentioning, 1973, 67, etc. This was prior to the Islamic Revolution, so it's really an irrelevant point.
Starts out with his meeting with Sadiq Kharzi, and I thought, this is a...
So this is a clip that is played in Uthman's video where he's showing that there was some kind of arrangements being made between the US and Iran. Dun dun dun.
A little bit different.
Sadiq Kharzi, here on the right with President Khatami, was a key player in Iran. He was the foreign minister's nephew, an in-law of the supreme leader, and he'd been meeting the Swiss ambassador.
The readout says that he's had these talks with Sadiq Kharzi, and Sadiq Kharzi has developed a roadmap for the normalization of U.S.-Iranian relations.
The roadmap suggested direct talks between Iran and America. Everything was on the table. Iran's wish list: America would refrain from supporting regime change and abolish all sanctions on Iran. And America's wish list: Iran would make Hezbollah into a peaceful political party and would accept the two-state Palestinian-Israeli peace process.
That proposal had a number of elements which were of importance to Iran. That is, it had the element of mutual respect, which has been lacking in U.S. approach to Iran.
So I don't understand what is the point of Brother Uthman including this clip. Is talking about the attempt for certain factions within Iran, like the moderate factions who are actually now especially seen as enemies of the Islamic Revolution. But you have, you know, Iran is not a monolith. You have different factions, and there's always been this kind of moderate pro-normalization faction within Iran that has wanted to normalize with the United States and drop sanctions on Iran, etc. Have the US drop sanctions on Iran, etc. So is Brother Uthman like citing this as being like disqualifying of Iran? If you as a country want to normalize with the United States, that disqualifies you. That's like a point against you. That shows your hypocrisy, or that shows If that's the case, then all of these other Muslim countries, top of the list being Saudi Arabia, which is normalized with the United States, by the way, or Pakistan, or Turkey, or Egypt, or any of these Muslim countries that are fully normalized with the United States, like, wouldn't they be more at fault? Like, wouldn't they be more culpable, blamable for their actions? If you have a problem with Iran attempting, a faction within Iran attempting to normalize, then what about the countries that are already normalized and have been for decades? Like, do you have, like, so this is the thing. I'm just having a hard time understanding the consistency here. What's the standard? Like, what is the principle that we have to apply here to Iran? Iran is bad because they attempted to normalize with the United States. Okay, if that's your principle, attempts to normalize with the United States is wrong, is morally culpable, is Islamically blameworthy, then what about the countries that are not only attempted to normalize with the U.S., but are actually normalized with the U.S.? Like, on the basis of that principle, wouldn't they be even worse? Wouldn't they even be worse than Iran? So this is, I don't understand the argument here. And then here I've listed just a select few of the treaties and agreements that Saudi Arabia officially has had with not only Britain, but America. And a lot of these were during times when Britain or the United States were attacking the Muslim world or supporting Israel. That didn't stop Saudi Arabia from making agreements and full-on treaties with these two superpowers. And the Treaty of Darin at the very beginning, before Saudi was even established officially, that's the most traitorous, that's the most egregious, where Abdulaziz ibn Saud agreed with the British in return for about £20,000, to be allied with the British, and it was like a mutual security agreement, while the British were at war with the Ottoman Khilafah, the Ottoman Caliphate. And the Ottoman Caliphate needed support from the Arab world, from the Arabian Peninsula, to fight in jihad against the British, who wanted to genocide and wipe out the Ottomans. And Abdulaziz ibn Saud in Najd refused. And instead, they issued a fatwa, the Wahhabis issued a fatwa saying that Muslims should ally with the British, because the British are Christians, and therefore they're Ahl al-Kitab, whereas the Ottomans are mushrikeen, murtaddeen, apostates. So it's justified to actually, we should ally as Muslims with the British against these Ottoman mushriks. And the Treaty of Darin was on the basis of that fatwa. Okay, this is the history of Saudi Arabia, but so that when I see people criticize Iran on such a, let's be honest, flimsy basis, but they turn a blind eye towards the Treaty of Darin or all these other agreements, military and economic agreements, full-on normalization, they have nothing to say, then I just have to scratch my head. I have to wonder, like, where's the consistency? As Muslims, we have to be just. As Muslims, we have to be just, we have to be fair, we have to be principled. And I'm not getting that, unfortunately, with this critique from our brother Uthman. Okay, now even beyond, so we just talked about normalization with the US. How about normalization with Israel? So Uthman has a problem with the attempted normalization, which didn't ultimately happen, between Iran and the United States. He has a problem with simply the attempt. What about Saudi's attempt to normalize with Israel? And there are many reports that were coming out right before October 7th in 2023 that Saudi was on the brink of normalizing with Israel, basically following the UAE and Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan with the Abraham Accords. Saudi was this close to signing the deal in order to fully normalize, not with the United States, that they'd normalized with the United States for decades, normalize with Israel. And this is the report: Saudi Arabia willing to normalize relations with Israel in exchange for a U.S. defense pact and civilian nuclear program. This was reported by Al Jazeera. This was September of 2023. Okay, you might say Al Jazeera is biased. Okay, here's another source. CNN. Saudi Crown Prince says normalization deal with Israel gets closer every day. This is reported by CNN. This is September 21st, 2023. The Wall Street Journal, okay, makes this report that Hamas, okay, the Palestinian resistance, wanted to torpedo the Israel-Saudi deal with the October 7th attacks. Okay, and we've heard this from many sources, but this is the Wall Street Journal, mainstream news reporting this, that the whole point of October 7th, or one of the main purposes of October 7th and the Palestinian resistance attack, was to break the normalization between Saudi and Israel, because it was so close to happening, and the Palestinians saw that if Saudi normalized with Israel, that would basically be the end of Palestine. That would be the end. That would give Israel carte blanche to completely wipe out the Palestinians, annex all of their land, and there would be no ability to resist that. That was the logic of Yahya Sinwar and the Palestinian resistance for launching the October 7th attacks. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting on this. So if Iran is culpable for its attempt to normalize with the United States, which again, I dispute. I don't think that the official Iranian government was trying to normalize with the US government. I think there are factions within Iran who, despite the status quo and the official position of the Islamic Republic, were trying to normalize relations. But even if we assume that Iran was trying to normalize officially with the United States, here you have Saudi Arabia attempting to normalize with Israel. So they should be even more blamable, culpable, blameworthy, according to Uthman bin Farook's standards. Is it not? Like, tell me in the chat if I'm being inconsistent. Tell me if I'm actually being unfair to Uthman. But I'm just following his logic, right?
It's the second opportunity I've had to meet.
So this is for another clip that Uthman provides. Abdulaziz al-Hakim, Iraqi Shia leader. This is in Uthman's video.
With one of the distinguished leaders of a free Iraq.
كما نعتقد أن الموضوع العراقي يجب أن يحل عراقيا.
All right, so Uthman is portraying this like, oh, look at the Iranian betrayal. Even though this wasn't an Iranian, this was a Shi'i. Okay, this was a Shi'i. This is coming to the Oval Office, sitting with Bush, and oh, look at the Shia betrayal, or the Iranian betrayal, even though he's not Iranian. Okay, so let's go to the history. Let's go to the archive and look at all the times, just looking at one country, Saudi Arabia, where U.S. officials are meeting with the Saudis in the midst of war and invasion, and on Iraq specifically. Okay, because there was the first Gulf War in 1991, and there was the second Gulf War in 2003. These attacks by the United States on Iraq. And who facilitated these attacks? Who was the main party who was responsible for facilitating these attacks on Iraq? None other than Saudi Arabia. Let's look at the documentation. Cohen, okay, William, Zionist U.S. Defense Secretary, meeting with King Fahd, okay, and the purpose of the meeting, you can go to this video, the AP archive, the Associated Press, and you can read this description. William Cohen, I believe is his name, U.S. Defense Secretary, talking about containing Iraq and Iran. This is in the lead up to the first Gulf War, okay, and who was the biggest country that was requesting the U.S. to get involved in the first Gulf War? Saudi Arabia. And here is the documented meeting. It's a meeting with Abdullah, okay, who eventually would be king, who's crown prince at this time, meeting, okay, with Bush. Okay, this is in either it was in the lead up or it was after the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
Never has Iran put.
Okay, so actually I missed one point. If you look at this video here, who's this in the middle between Cohen and the king? It's Prince Bandar, Ibn Sultan, Prince Bandar, who is the U.S. ambassador, the Saudi ambassador to the United States. And Bandar is an interesting character, actually. He basically was the son of one of the princes, Prince Sultan, and an Ethiopian maid. Okay, an Ethiopian maid, and when she got pregnant, the monarchy kicked her out, kicked out the maid, okay, with her new child, and then eventually they, brought him back, and he became known as Prince Bandar, okay, because this was a scandal. Okay, he's having children with the maid. And if you go look at the Wikipedia, the kind of bio for Prince Bandar, they say that he was the child of an Ethiopian concubine. But I don't remember Saudi having any kind of war of jihad with Ethiopia. Like, where are they getting concubines from in Ethiopia? She was just a maid. She was just a maid, and this was zina, basically. Or, that's what is seeming to be the case, because there's no concubines, actually, from Ethiopia, unless there was some jihad war that I didn't know about. And then eventually Prince Bandar is, brought into the fold of the monarchy, and he serves as a very important figure with Saudi-U.S. relations. And he was very key in making sure that Saudi Arabia was providing support to the United States in the 2003 invasion of Iraq. We're going to talk more about that history a little bit later in the stream.
Never has Iran put boots on the ground. Yes, the Arab countries did not do a great job. Yes, we as a Muslim ummah are failing.
Interesting, right? Like, Iran has not put boots on the ground. That's a big problem with Iran. That's why we can't trust Iran. That's why we can't unify with Iran. They haven't put boots on the ground. Oh, is that the standard? Is that the standard for who we can ally with, is only countries that put boots on the ground? And I mean, he must know that he's being inconsistent. Like, none of these Arab countries, which he goes on to praise in the video, he praises UAE, for example, explicitly. They haven't put boots on the ground. In fact, they're normalized with Israel. And in fact, they've been assisting Israel. They've been assisting Israel in the genocide against Gaza, against the Palestinians. So this is, Iran has not put boots on the ground. Therefore, I don't think this is a very good argument. Maybe you'd agree, Uthman, maybe not. But
The issue of criticizing the rulers is obviously also has lots of depth in fiqh and so on. But in essence, we should always try to advise the rulers in private and make dua for them. As Imam Ahmad, he would said that if he had a dua that is accepted, he would make dua for the sultan to be guided, because the sultan is guided, then the ummah gets great benefit from it.
Just interesting. Like, this is the standard that we might wonder, why hasn't Uthman said anything about Saudi, about UAE? Like, why is all this vitriol coming out against Iran? Well, his standard, as he said it publicly, is that we don't criticize the ruler. Now, this is a Madkhali standard. This is Madkhalism, okay? We don't criticize the ruler publicly, except if it's Iran. If it's Iran, then we can, make these videos and call them basically as big of an enemy of the Ummah as Israel itself. But, outside of Iran, no, we can only advise privately.
And nowadays, we just have people sitting around in their bedrooms and shaking their fists and cursing the rulers without any benefit, right? What benefit do we get? If we start more bloodshed in the Ummah, is that really going to fix the situation, right? I think it's very important that we stop blaming others and start taking responsibility, right? Start taking, okay, what am I doing to improve the situation? And to be very honest, alhamdulillah, I've had the opportunity to meet royalty from different places in the Muslim world, and I've had great conversations where I sat privately and gave my advice. in a positive manner to hopefully benefit the ummah.
Oh, mashallah, he's in private gatherings with royalty and having great conversations and giving them great advice. Mashallah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so publicly, we attack Iran, we make videos, we sit in the room and shake our fists against Iran. But the monarchs, the royalty, you know, I have private conversations with them. Interesting. Standard there.
Right? But if I sit around here calling this guy kafir and that guy kafir, first thing, how do I even know that Islam? Dawabit of takfir, there's rules and regulations to that. And am I a mufti, am I a alim to be able to make takfir on somebody who's asal Islam? See, people get it twisted, right? And we as
So, yeah, I mean, that clip speaks for itself.
Muslims are failing the people of Gaza. We need to do more. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to compromise my aqeedah. This does not mean that I'm going to compromise my belief, because I don't forget that this same regime was there to support the US and Israel against Iraq when Iraq was standing up against Israel. Where was their Palestinian cause then? Listen to them in the White House speaking to President Bush about how they helped the US and thanked the US topple a Sunni leader, a leader who was standing up at that time for the people of Palestine. Why did they not care about Palestine then?
Okay, so he's saying that Iran was in the White House thanking the US. Okay, so, but this is not, as we saw, this is not an Iranian.
شكرا سيادة الرئيس على إتاحة هذه الفرصة. شكرا للشعب الأمريكي على تعاطفه مع محنة الشعب العراقي ومساعدته في التخلص من الدكتاتورية وإقامة الديمقراطية في العراق.
Now listen.
Okay, so he is Iraqi Shi'i, and again, like, the United States has all kinds of these agents or these individuals that they take from the country that they're invading to say, oh, thank you so much for liberating us. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Shi'i, Sunni, atheist. Like, they are doing that right now with Iran. Like, Donald Trump is promoting certain voices, like Iranians. The Zionist media is promoting Iranians, saying, oh, thank you, Donald Trump, for invading Iran and blowing our girls' school up and killing our people. Thank you so much. You've liberated us. So this is not like a very strong data point, but it's interesting. Like, if UTHMAN has such a big problem with assisting the United States, being involved in a coalition with the United States in attacking Iraq and attacking Saddam Hussein, then shouldn't he have a much bigger problem with countries like Saudi Arabia? Like, wouldn't that be consistent?
Again, Ahmadinejad, at that time leader of the Iranian state, the regime, listen to him say that he helped the US not just in Iraq, but in Afghanistan against the Muslims of Afghanistan, that they continue to help the US. Listen to him himself.
در افغانستان باشون همکاری شد، در عراق باشون همکاری شد، در افغانستان باشون همکاری شد، در عراق باشون همکاری شد.
That this war be fought.
Okay, so he points to the former president Ahmadinejad making this kind of statement. That's all it's limited to, actually, when it comes to a lot of these sectarians that perhaps are feeding UTHMAN these clips. Like, all they have is like 2-second clips of former Iranian presidents making this statement or that statement. And I'm not denying that Iran and the United States might have had some kind of under-the-table agreement, okay, when it comes to attacking Iraq and it comes to attacking Afghanistan. And I condemn that. I consider that to be illegitimate, and Iran shouldn't be doing things like that. But my only point is that why don't we have a consistent standard? Because if Iran is culpable for this, then we should have 20 times, 100 times, 10,000 times more blame to place on Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia and other countries like Pakistan, for example. What was Pakistan's involvement with the invasion of Afghanistan and the continued attacks on Afghanistan for that 20 years of occupation? Why aren't we consistent? Like, why doesn't UTHMAN come out with a video if he's so pressed about the cooperation with the United States against Afghanistan, if that is such a big deal to him, why hasn't he made any videos about Pakistan's involvement, for example, or Saudi Arabia's involvement, for that matter? And here's a clip from C-SPAN, Lieutenant General Khalid bin Sultan, who's part of the royal family, and this is in the 90s. Okay, this is shortly after the invasion, which Saudi Arabia was heavily supporting and facilitating of Iraq. Okay, and he's making a statement about the operation and the coalition against Saddam. And this invasion of Iraq came with the United States establishing major launching points from the Arabian Peninsula, from Saudi, in order to attack Iraq. And this is one of their monarchs, who's a lieutenant general, talking about it. Let's watch this.
Them give us no other alternative. It is no less important that it is be understood, and what better way to do it but through the media. We deeply appreciate the forces from all the countries that contributed to this historic United Nations commitment for the liberation of Kuwait. Our remarkable coalition of nations is united in the principle that naked aggression must not stand. We are determined that the countries of the Middle East will be able to live in peace with respect for each other.
There's the question.
Okay, so that's, if you want to blame Iran for any kind of cooperation with the United States, shouldn't you have 1,000, 10,000 times more blame on Saudi Arabia? Did Iran have any kind of military bases where it allowed the U.S. to launch against Iraq, against Saddam Hussein in the 90s, or then later in 2003? There is no example of that. And here is a clip, another, I believe it's CNN interview with Netanyahu. This was before he was prime minister. He was just the deputy foreign minister. And what has revealed itself, in the past 30 years since the first Gulf War, is that Israel was very key in pushing the United States to attack Iraq and to attack Saddam Hussein, because Israel viewed Saddam Hussein as a threat, because Saddam Hussein was allied with the Palestinians and Yasser Arafat. They were actually working together, and Israel viewed Iraq as a big threat, Saddam Hussein, and wanted him to be destroyed. Now listen exactly to what is being said in this interview.
The question here is not war. The question here is, what are the objectives of the international coalition led by the United States? We understand these objectives to be the removal or the reversal of Iraqi aggression against Kuwait, but equally to ensure an order of stability and peace in our region after that departure takes place from Kuwait. We support those goals, and we hope the United States can achieve them. If it can achieve them peacefully, so much the better.
You say you don't want to talk of war, but no less than Shimon Peres has said that the appearance is that Israel is trying to push the United States into war. And there's a report out of Jerusalem that Israel is demanding a commitment from the United States that America put an end to the Iraqi military threat.
So just like today, if you recall, that Israel has been denying that it's pushed the United States to attack Iran, okay, in this current war. Israel denies it. They say, no, Donald Trump is the decider. Donald Trump. Who can tell Donald Trump what to do? Far be it from us to demand that Donald Trump and the United States attack Iran and go to war on behalf of Israel. Perish the thought. That's what Israel says today. They use the same exact line in the first Gulf War in 1990. In the first Gulf War, they also, no, we're not saying go to war with Iraq and take out Saddam. We're not saying that. That's what Benjamin Netanyahu, like, he raises his eyebrow. But the interviewer, I forgot this guy's name, Brian something. He's saying, oh, but there were these leaked reports coming from Shimon Peres that is internal to Israel, the Israeli government saying that you want the US to take out Saddam for you, to neutralize the Saddam threat. And so he's like, he has this gotcha against Benjamin Netanyahu.
I don't know about these reports. I do know what our policy is. We share, in fact, the policy with the United States. Because you see, what is threatened by Iraq is not just Israel. Everybody is threatened by Iraq. If Saddam Hussein maintains, if he devours that prey and keeps it, he will go after other prey. If he gets out of Kuwait but remains with his war machine intact, who can say that tomorrow or a year or two from now, he won't turn on some other target? It may not be Israel. It may be somebody else in the region. It could be Turkey. It could be Saudi Arabia again. It could be anyone.
So the same line, okay, the same line that they're using, Zionist media saying, Iran is a threat to all the Muslims. Iran is a threat to all of these Middle Eastern countries. That's why we can't allow them to have a military. We have to take it out. They were using the same exact line against Saddam Hussein and against Iraq. They're saying, oh, look, Saddam is so aggressive. He's pushing into Kuwait. And the fact of the matter is, okay, and you won't hear this from Sunni sectarians, is, yeah, Saddam was very aggressive. He was attacking all of these Muslim countries, including Iran, okay, for an almost decade-long war, Iran-Iraq war. That was based on Saddam's aggression. And he was being armed by the West, by the way, but let's put that to the side. But Israel is taking advantage of this and saying that, oh, look, Saddam is so aggressive. We have to take him out. We have to neutralize his military for the safety of the region. It's not for Israel. It's the safety of the region. Same lines. They don't even have a new script. They just regurgitate the same talking points.
So the question is really, how do we neutralize the threat posed by this vast war machine that Iraq has in the wake of the Gulf crisis?
Are you denying that Foreign Minister Levy translated a message to U.S. Ambassador Brown that in effect asked for a U.S. commitment to end the Iraqi military threat?
Well, I don't get into diplomatic conversations, but...
So he's not letting him get away with it. Like, are you denying that this report exists? Like, these internal documents exist where the Israeli government is saying that we have to take out Saddam and we have to push the United States to do this? So Netanyahu denies it. He plays dumb, but this is the deception, the Zionist deception that they've been running on the U.S. public and the U.S. media for decades.
I think I've stated our policy, and I think it's very much your policy.
Okay. So this is a Britannica article. Like, if you don't trust me, you don't trust, I don't know, CNN. Here's Britannica, the encyclopedia. You can go to this entry, the Persian Gulf War and its aftermaths. And it's talking about the first Persian Gulf War and the heavy involvement of Saudi Arabia in calling for this, okay? We know that what Israel wanted. We know that this helped Israel. And look at Saudi's involvement. Saudi political leadership was challenged when Iraq, after having rejected attempted Saudi mediation, reasserted its earlier claims and invaded neighboring Kuwait on August 2nd, 1990, precipitating the Persian Gulf War. The Kuwaiti government fled to Saudi Arabia, and King Fahd denounced the Iraqi invaders, fearing that President Saddam of Iraq might invade Saudi next, despite Saudi assistance to Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. That's a good historical footnote. Saudi was helping Iraq when Iraq was launching a war of aggression against Iran. Just for those of you keeping score. The Saudis, breaking with tradition, invited the U.S. and other countries to send troops to protect the kingdom. Okay? Send troops. They had been sending all kinds of arms and money to Saudi Arabia, but now actually send troops. This was done after Fahd had received the approbation of the kingdom's highest-ranking religious official, Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Baz. Okay, the infamous fatwa of bin Baz that yes, you can have the Kafir soldiers come into the country to launch a war to kill Muslims. Okay, this is his famous fatwa because he made takfir of the entire, basically the country of Iraq. Okay, and we're going to have a video in the future where I'll show you a lot of interesting statements from bin Baz. Interesting fatwa. I didn't have time to present all of that for this stream for the sake of time, but that's going to come down the line, inshallah. So bin Baz gave the fatwa who agreed that non-Muslims could defend Islam's holiest places. Okay, because that's what the U.S. is doing. The U.S., with its bases in Saudi, is defending the Haram, Mecca and Medina. That's what the U.S. really cares about. Not with launching a war for Israel. as all of the internal documentation of Israel reveals. By mid-November, the U.S. had sent 230,000 troops, which were the most important part of the coalition force that ultimately included soldiers from many other countries. The Saudis adroitly coordinated Arab and Muslim contingents and also established diplomatic ties with China, Soviet Union, and later Iran. King Fahd expanded his goals beyond the protection of Saudi to include the liberation of Kuwait and, if possible, the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. This is the first Gulf War. Okay, and look at Saudi's involvement. They're the main participant, okay? And who benefits? Who is the main beneficiary of taking out Saddam Hussein? Is the monarchy and Israel.
Did you forget what they did in Iraq? The Shia death squads that went out, over 1 million dead Iraqis after the takeover of the Shia government. I'm not even talking about those that were killed during the US-led invasion that Iran helped them with, openly. That right there is almost 2 million dead Muslims on the hands of this bloody regime.
So he's putting the debt, 2 million Iraqi Muslims dead is because of Iran. He's putting it on the heads of the Iranian government. I don't know how that math checks out. So 1 million killed during the war, and then he says 1 million after. Source, trust me, bro, I don't know what his source is for after the war. 1 million additional. But 1 million killed because of the 2003, this is the second Gulf War, invasion of Iraq. 1 million Iraqis killed. That also somehow is the fault of Iran. Not Saudi Arabia, who was allowing the US to use its airspace against Iraq. Okay? In the 2000, in 1990 and 1991, the first Gulf War, Saudi was all in. Okay? What was different in 2003 is that Saudi kept things under wraps. Saudi kept things quiet, and they weren't openly talking about their support of the US in invading Iraq. Same thing as today. Same thing where Saudi, under the table, is allowing the United States to use its bases and to use its airspace, not only the US, but also Israel, to attack Iran in 2026. Back in 2003, Saudi was also allowing the US to use its airspace and its bases to attack Iraq in the second Gulf War. But they just kept it hush-hush because it causes a lot of protest. It causes people to get very angry, Muslims, that why are we allowing the United States to kill Muslims in Iraq by giving them this, these facilities, this airspace? So this was reported by The Guardian. Okay, the Saudi government has agreed to allow American planes to use its bases in a war with Iraq. U.S. military commanders have claimed, providing a crucial strategic boost for the Bush administration as it ordered the deployment of thousands more troops, 2 more aircraft carriers, and one of the Navy's 2 hospital ships to the Gulf region. Okay, so again, Uthman bin FAROOQ, if you have a big problem with Iran, you want to attribute 1 million, the 1 million Iraqis who were killed by the U.S. invasion, they shouldn't be attributed to the United States. They shouldn't be attributed to Israel. They shouldn't be attributed to Saudi. They should be attributed to Iran. How does that make sense? Like, this is a noodle scratcher for me. Okay, if you don't trust the previous source, The Guardian, here's BBC, Saudis to let U.S. use bases. It's from December 2002. Saudi Arabia has reportedly agreed to make its airspace, air bases, and an important operations center available to the U.S. forces should war with Iraq occur. So it's because of Saudi's willingness to play ball and facilitate that actually allowed the U.S. to make the final decision to actually invade Iraq. Should we hold them accountable? Like, should we blame them for this? Okay, and then this was a report that came out later. Saudi bases were used by U.S. in Iraq war. This came out in 2004. So this is after the fact. It was reported that the kingdom provided more than just lip service to the U.S.-Saudi Arabian alliance during the war to topple Saddam. During the Iraq war, Saudi Arabia secretly helped the U.S. far more than has been acknowledged, allowing operations from at least 3 air bases permitting special forces to stage attacks from Saudi soil and providing cheap fuel, US and Saudi officials say. The American air campaign against Iraq was essentially managed from inside Saudi borders, where military commanders operated an air command center and launched refueling tankers, F-16 fighter jets, and sophisticated intelligence gathering flights, according to the officials. Much of the assistance has been kept quiet for more than a year by both countries for fear it would add to instability inside the kingdom. Many Saudis oppose the war, and U.S. presence on Saudi soil has been used by Osama bin Laden to build his terrorism movement. Okay, so the critics of Saudi Arabia, including OBL, including, AQ, Al-Qaeda, they are criticizing Saudi for allowing the U.S. to use its soil to attack a Muslim country, like they did in the first Gulf War in 1990. So in the second Gulf War in 2003, they kept it under wraps. They kept it quiet, but it was still happening. And this is exactly the case. It's a repeat of this history happening now with the U.S. attack on Iran. Again, in public, they claim, oh, you can't use our bases. You can't use our airspace. Oh, we don't want war. That's what they say publicly. Privately, they're facilitating everything. Okay, this is, talk about being two-faced. Talk about nifaq, actually. Uthman was talking about this earlier. Here's the proof. Like, here is the evidence. And I'm just providing you a small snippet, okay? Because this is a video, okay? We can't do a documentary length discussion of all this. Maybe we should do a documentary, actually. But all the proof is there. Okay, so again, if there's a problem with Iran for supporting, okay, we don't exactly know how, what was the extent, the nature of the support of Iran for the U.S. to attack Iraq and Afghanistan. Uthman doesn't provide any kind of details of this. Neither do the sectarians that produce these clips. All we have is a clip of Ahmadinejad, the former Iranian president, saying, oh, we helped. Okay, what was the nature of that? Whatever it is, whatever it was, I denounce it, I condemn it. That is wrong. But let's put things in perspective. Let's put things in scale. How many military bases or what kind of military presence is there in Iran from the United States compared to all of these other countries? I mean, let's be fair. Like, if that's the principle that you want to use, if that's the standard that you want to use, Brother Uthman, be consistent. Be a consistent Muslim. That's all I'm asking for. Okay, I'm not asking for anyone to treat Iran with any kind of privilege or treat it as a special case. No, just treat it equal to other countries, to other Muslim governments. That's all I'm asking. Okay, presence of U.S. military bases. Okay, in West Asia, in the region. Look at the Gulf. Look at the Persian Gulf. Thanks to Iran, okay, thanks to the past 40 days, a lot of those bases have been destroyed. So, this is an old map. But, this is the situation that we're dealing with as an ummah. Our entire, so much of the Muslim world has been occupied with these military bases. Because if the U.S. has a military base in your country, that means they exert significant force on your country. If your country is out of line, according to the U.S., or your country goes significantly against U.S. or Israeli interests, there is a military base parked right there with U.S. officials, with U.S. intelligence officials who are there to apply force, either violent force against your people or blackmail against your government. The Epstein files, okay, is not just about the United States. The Epstein files is about a system of blackmail across the entire globe. How intelligence agencies use blackmail against leaders of all of these countries. And if there's a U.S. military base in your country, that's basically a Zionist base. That's basically an avenue for Jeffrey Epstein or Jeffrey Epstein-like people, agents, to come and conduct similar operations against your leaders. So let's not be naive.
You see, these are the people that have been stabbing the Muslim Ummah in the back since the inception. The Muslim Ummah was one Ummah. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no such thing as the Rawafid or Shia. There was one Ummah, and the Prophet ﷺ told the Ummah, alaykum bis sunnati, upon you is the Sunnah.
You know who actually was in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? The Khawarij. Actually, they were a part of time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Khawarij. Okay.
Alaykum bil jama'ah, to be united, and they were together until these people split away from the Ummah, and since then they have been stabbing the Muslim Ummah in the back. Did you?
So there was just peace in the Ummah, you know, until the Shias came, until the 12 Shias came, centuries later. Prior to that, it was just peace. There was no Khawarij, there was no like fitna, multiple fitan that happened with the Sahaba. You know, there wasn't any conflict, you know, between Ali radiallahu anhu and other Sahaba. That didn't exist. It was all just peace. So I don't know what kind of history you're reading there, our brother Uthman, but I'm not sure what peace you're talking about. You know, the fitna with the Sahaba, like this is well known, okay, that they were even fighting each other. So let's just be honest. Like, that's all I'm calling for. Let's be honest. Like, we don't have to compromise on our aqidah. Yes, you know, I was a former Shi'i. I acknowledge and I came to recognize and see for myself the deviance of Shia. And, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I think I can argue better than anyone why Shi'ism is deviant. Okay, better than, you know, most of these people online, at least. Okay, I think because I have that kind of insider's perspective where I did go from Shi'i to Sunni. So I think I can talk about this, not in an authoritative way. I'm not a scholar, but I think I have experience. I've done a lot of research on this. And so I'm the first to acknowledge that they have certain points of aqidah that are deviant. They're not orthodox Islam. And I can argue that. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't ally with them, that we shouldn't support them, that we shouldn't be happy at their victories. And you yourself expressed this in a letter. In a letter, at least your organization did before it was abruptly retracted. Okay, next talking point. So basically, our brother Uthman is going through the laundry list of common talking points, sectarian talking points that we've heard over and over again. So we talked about Iraq, cursing the Sahaba. What's next? Of course, it's Syria.
Forget what they did in Syria? Over 1 million dead Syrians under a regime that this particular Iranian regime not just supported, but put boots on the ground, put chemical weapons in their hands that they used on the children in Syria.
So this is, I couldn't find any credible source that Iran provided Syria with chemical weapons. Historically, it seems like these chemical weapons came from the Soviet Union. From Moscow and maybe some other Western European countries. It's not actually Iran. So I don't know what's the source for that claim. But yeah, let's continue. Okay. So this is, again, like we want to blame Iran. And I do blame Iran. I do blame Iran for its involvement with backing Bashar al-Assad. And I've been a critic of Bashar al-Assad since, 2013, basically, publicly, criticizing Bashar al-Assad and how he has brutally cracked down on the Syrians. And, okay, that's, my record has been clear on that. But look at what happened in 2023. This is from May, where the Saudi king invited Bashar al-Assad to attend the Arab League summit. And they reopened the doors to Bashar al-Assad. Isn't that interesting? How could they do that? How could they reopen the doors? Okay, the Arab League. Here's MBS, Bin Salman, welcoming Bashar al-Assad. Look at them sitting together. This is the Arab League summit. Okay, they welcomed him back in, rolled out the red carpet. Okay, so if Bashar al-Assad is such a evil, brutal tyrant who's killed 1 million Syrians, okay, and we'll look at the numbers there, and Iran is culpable for supporting him, well, here's the entire Arab League. You know, here he is standing with all of these Arab leaders. Okay, you see Saudi there, UAE representation, and others. Okay, so this is the Arab League, and here's the photo op, and you see Bashar al-Assad there. So can we be consistent? Can we be consistent? If Iran is culpable, and it is, then aren't all of these other states, aren't these all these other states that are rolling out the red carpet for him to be part of their Arab League? Or are they doing taqiyya? Or are they being two-faced? Like privately, they think something different about Bashar al-Assad. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I don't know what Uthman bin Farook's explanation for this is. But consistency would demand that he makes similar statements against all of these countries. Conveniently, though, he has a principle that we don't criticize the rulers publicly. We don't criticize them publicly, he says. We just have private conversations with them. Well, in the next private conversation that you have with royalty, Uthman bin Farook, maybe criticize them for opening their doors to Bashar al-Assad back in 2023. That might be a good talking or point of conversation for you.
They've killed more Muslims in Syria than Israel has in their entire history of existence.
Okay, so this is the claim. This is the claim typically made by someone like Rabbi Adnan, like Uncle Retard, you might remember, Adnan Rashid, that Iran has killed 6 million Sunnis in Syria. Okay, but here are the numbers. These are different estimates that are given. The UN says 350,000. Okay, that they can verify. Another group says 580. And then the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is an anti-Assad group, they say 656,000 killed total. Okay? So total on both sides, not just on the resistance side, the opposition side. Both sides total 656. So that's like a max estimate. Where is the million? That's the way I want to know, like from these sectarians. Where is the million that you cite? Like, is it just a round number and you just round up? You round up to 1 million. But this is like both sides. When we look at further breakdown from other sources, from other human rights groups, they say that 400,000 can be attributed to Bashar al-Assad. 400,000 Bashar al-Assad and his allies. Okay, so that includes not only Iran, it includes Russia. It also includes Hezbollah. Okay, so these groups were involved. And then the other side, 200,000 were killed by the Syrian opposition, which include groups like ISIS, which include HTS, Ahmed Shara's group, okay, the current president of Syria. 200,000. But according to Uthman bin Farook and others, all of those deaths are just wrapped all into one and attributed to Iran. So this is not fair. This is not just. This is not accurate. It's not even basic historical accuracy is not on the table. It's not in the picture in this conversation. So that's my problem. Yes, blame Iran, but there's plenty of blame to go around. And insofar as the Syrian revolution was exacerbated by armed terror groups that were getting funded by the United States and the Gulf with Operation Timber Sycamore, they were the ones who were getting weapons from outside to exacerbate the conflict in order to take out Bashar al-Assad for the larger geopolitical purposes of the United States and Israel. Then shouldn't the blame also go to those factions? Shouldn't some of the blood be at the feet of Ahmed Shara, for example? Ahmed Shara, by the way, who has great relations going to Moscow and shaking hands with Putin and getting photo ops. If Syrian blood is not cheap, as they claim, why is Ahmed Shara not condemned? Why is Putin not condemned? Why is Ahmed Shara, Guilani, going and shaking hands with Putin? And none of these sectarians have a problem with that. None of these sectarians are crying about the Syrians, the 6 million Syrians killed when Shara goes and shakes hands with Putin or signs another deal with the United States. So this is a double standard. This is not something that can be defended. Okay, you can just make videos and you can make clips and you can post them. You can't engage in a debate. You can't engage in a fair conversation because the facts are against you. Okay, so Uthman bin Farooq made a claim. Source, trust me, bro, that more Muslims were killed in Syria by Iran than Israel has killed Palestinians in the entire history of, the fake state of Israel. Is that true? Well, let's look at the recent genocide that happened in Gaza. What is the death toll? And here is one academic's estimate. And you can find this article, Skewering History, the Odious Politics of Counting Gaza's Dead. And you had two Australian academics who estimate that the total is actually 680,000. Okay, 680,000 Palestinians. And they tell you their methodology. Gaza deaths from imposed deprivation and the total death toll would increase, would accordingly be 136,000 violent deaths plus 544,000 deaths from imposed deprivation, meaning the blockade, leading to a staggering total of 680,000 deaths by April 25th, 2025. Most of these victims, as indicated in earlier accounts by the Ministry of Health, are women and children. Shocking in its enormity, the figure of 680,000 is derived from calculations based on other conflicts around the world. So Israel is not allowing any officials to go and officially do a count. They're not allowing the UN, they're not allowing any kind of human rights organization, any kind of aid organization to have free access to Gaza to be able to do an official count. So they have to estimate the death toll. And using these estimates, they reach the 680,000. And the majority is based on forced starvation. When you have shut off the electricity, shut off the water, shut off the gas, which Israel did on October 2023 to the entirety of Gaza, 2.1 million people, that causes a lot of death. That causes a lot of death, especially amongst the most vulnerable, which are children and then women. So that is what Israel has done in just 2 years. Uthman bin Farooq says that Iran has done much worse somehow. I don't know how, because the death toll clear here, the estimate is 680,000. For Syria, the death toll for the entirety of the conflict over 11 years, over more than 11 years, was 658,000. And that's total deaths. And we know that Iran wasn't responsible for total deaths on both sides. Maximum, if you want to attribute all of Bashar al-Assad's killing to Iran, max that would be 400,000. Even that would be an unfair attribution to Iran, but even then it would be 400,000. Israel's death toll Israel's amount of killing is much greater than that. But that's not even the whole picture. Because when we look at post 9/11 war on terror, the United States invading Iraq, invading Afghanistan, invading Libya, invading Somalia or drone striking Somalia, Yemen. The total death toll from direct and indirect deaths, according to Brown University, Watson School of International and Public Affairs, with their cost of war project, they say 4.5 to 4.7 million and counting deaths. So who's responsible for the war on terror? Is it not the United States and the United States' boss, Israel? Shouldn't those be attributed, just since 2001, shouldn't those deaths be attributed to Israel? Who should be considered to be responsible for 9/11 and pushing the United States into the war on terror? Have you Googled the dancing Israelis? Maybe you should Google the dancing Israelis, and maybe you should watch Tucker Carlson's documentary on 9/11. Maybe that will clear up some confusion, but 4.5 to 4.7 million deaths, I think, can be reasonably attributed to not only the United States, but the master of the United States in Tel Aviv. And then 38 million people in these Muslim nations have been displaced as refugees because of the war on terror since 2001. So does that factor into the calculation of Uthman bin FAROOQ when he's saying that Iran is the bigger threat, or Iran has caused more deaths than Israel? I wish he would provide some evidence. Okay, we know Rabbi Adnan says, source, trust me, bro. He has refused to provide any evidence. He's refused to debate me. He's refused to actually cite any kind of authentic, authoritative source. I've provided a lot of sources. I've provided a lot of arguments, and I'm willing to debate. He's not. So I would hate to see Uthman bin FAROOQ or his followers be deceived by a bad argument without evidence. That's unjust. Unjust. At best, it's unjust. At worst, you're basically whitewashing Israel's crimes. You're whitewashing Israel's crimes, despite hating Israel. I don't doubt that Uthman bin FAROOQ hates Israel and hates Zionism and sees it as an enemy. But are your actions inadvertently, unintentionally supporting a Zionist narrative? That's the problem. That's my concern.
That doesn't mean that we support Israel. It's not this dichotomy of either you're with Israel or Iran. No, we're with neither one of those insane maniacs. We're with the Muslim Ummah. We're with the people of Tawheed. We're with the people who want peace. But I want you to understand something that...
So if you want to be with the Muslims and with the Ummah, shouldn't you be against the main threat to the Ummah? The main killer of Muslims? Shouldn't you be against them? Shouldn't you support anyone who's going to prevent their oppression and their harm and their killing? Like, isn't that logical?
This is show. Why is it that Iran never cared about Israel in any of the armed conflicts that they had with their Arab or Muslim neighbors and so on, until the first time that Iran attacked Israel was in April 13, 2024. From 1948 to 2024. Why? Why? Because April 1st, 2024, Iran was attacked.
Okay, let's just watch this.
إيران قاومت الاحتلال ليس نصرة لغزة وإنما اعتدي عليها اعتدي على إيران فدافعت إيران عن ذاتها دافعت عن برنامجها النووي وكان بإمكانها أن تضع شرطا لإيقاف الحرب إيقاف الإبادة عن غزة ولم تفعل.
They didn't do it for Palestine. They did it for themselves. Because they got attacked, they retaliated.
Okay, so let's just stop for a second. I don't know who that was, who was talking in that clip, but let's just analyze. Like, if Iran is just defending itself, isn't that a good thing? Like, aren't they defending Muslims? Like, if Iran's only job, the government there, is to defend its borders from Israel and U.S. aggression, isn't that defending the Ummah? Isn't that defending the Muslims in Iran from aggression and from death and destruction? Like, isn't that a good thing? Like, why is that a bad thing? And when the Palestinians are fighting, okay, the Palestinian resistance are fighting against Israel, no one comes out and says, oh, the Palestinians only care about themselves. They're actually not fighting for the Ummah. The Palestinians only care about themselves. They're only defending themselves. Yeah, that is fighting for the Ummah. That is fighting for the Muslims. Them defending themselves is doing that. When Afghanistan and the Taliban, they're resisting and they're fighting back against the U.S. occupation, no one said, oh, the Taliban only cares about itself. The Taliban only is attacking the U.S. when they got attacked. They weren't doing anything before. No one objects against Afghanistan for that, or the Taliban for that. Of course, they're defending themselves when they're attacked. That's a good thing. And they are defending the Muslims when they do that. The Muslims who are in their territory, the Muslims who are within their borders. That's a good thing. The only country that is going to be blamed for defending itself is Iran somehow. Only Iran becomes blameworthy for just defending itself. And this is like a really crazy dehumanization of Iranians. And it implicitly means that Iranians aren't part of the Ummah, that there are no Muslims in Iran. It's like implicitly mass takfiring Iran. When Iran defends its borders, that has nothing to do with the Ummah. That has nothing to do with the Muslims and defending Muslim lands. If the Palestinians do it, if the Syrians do it, if the Afghans do it, any other Muslim nation, the Iraqis do it, yeah, they're defending Muslims in their borders. There's no this extra like interrogation that, oh, but in your heart of hearts, are you actually doing it for the entirety of the Ummah? Like, that question doesn't even make sense. But that's the question that, or the accusation that is lobbed at Iran. This is bizarre, right? This is something that they've just invented against Iran. And it's not fair. Like, this is not just. As Muslims, we're just, as Sunni Muslims, let me put it that way. As Sunni Muslims, we have to be just. Okay? And yes, Iran is a Muslim country. It is a Muslim country. It has many masajid. It has many, its government claims to follow Islam, which is something that we can't say for many other governments. Like, they actually have Islam as a part of their law and legal system. They are a Muslim country. And when they defend themselves, even if it were true, even if this accusation from Uthman bin FAROOQ were true, that they merely defend themselves, they only fought back against Israel for the first time in April 2025 after they were attacked. Even if that were the case, they would still deserve praise for that. That would still count as defending Islam, defending Muslims, if that were all that Iran has done. But that clearly is not just what Iran has done. Clearly, Iran has been opposing Israel and the United States occupation and colonial aggression and imperialism for much longer than that. And don't take my word for it. Let's see what others have to say.
And they're using Palestine as a drama to kind of hide the fact that they're trying to survive their own regimes. من دعم المقاومة وأدرك شرف مساندتها ونصرها بالسلاح والعدة شكرا لكل أولئك من أفراد وجماعات ودول وعلى رأسهم جمهورية إيران الإسلامية.
Okay, so there's Abu Ubaidah, Palestinian resistance, showing his appreciation, saying top of the list is Iran and its support, the Islamic Republic of Iran in supporting the Palestinians. Right, this is way before 2025, this clip. Okay. So I guess, was Abu Ubaidah being duped? Is Abu Ubaidah a fool, as Rabbi Adnan claims? Was Abu Ubaidah is he an agent of Iran? Like, why is he spewing Iranian propaganda, this Shia Rafidi propaganda? I don't know. Like, what does Uthman think about this?
لولا دعم إيران للمقاومة في فلسطين لما امتلكنا هذه القدرات.
Okay, so this is Yahya Sinwar Shahid Yahya saying that if it weren't for Iran, we would have no capabilities. We would have no ability to resist. And this is from Memory, okay, the Israeli Zionist media outlet that provides the translation. And they're putting this clip. They put this clip out after October 7th because they wanted to closely connect October 7th with Iran to justify launching a war against Iran. And they got that. They got what they wanted after 2 years. But now the Israeli outlets want to deny this. The Israeli outlets want to say that, no, Iran is selfish. The Zionists want to say that Iran has always been out for its own interests. They never supported Palestinians. But after October 7th, they wanted to closely tie the Palestinian resistance to Iran for the sake of justifying a invasion and attack on Iran on the pretext of October 7th attack. So here's Yahya Sinwar. Listen more to what he says because he gives details. The Arabs deserted us. Okay, the Arabs, our nation, deserted us.
تخلت عنا أمتنا في اللحظات الحرجة والصعبة تخلت عنا أمتنا ودعمتنا إيران بالسلاح والعتاد والخبرات.
Iran has given us expertise, equipment, facilitated for us.
كان لدينا في فصائل المقاومة بضع صواريخ جراد 20 زودتنا بها الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران، وبعض الصواريخ من الصناعة المحلية وبعض قذائف الهاون.
So it's going back to 2008. Like these sawarikh, these missiles were provided by Iran. Then 4 years later in 2012.
بعد 4 أعوام في عام 2012 ضربت مقاومتنا لأول مرة تل أبيب بصواريخ فجر من دعم الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران.
2012 more sawarikh, more missiles. The Fajr missiles coming from where?
صواريخ
Okay, missiles actually were used against Tel Aviv.
محلية الصنع في عام 2014 ضربنا تل أبيب ب170 صاروخ، منها صواريخ فجر من دعم إيران وغالبيتها تصنيع محلي بدعم وإسناد مالي وفني من إيران أيضا.
Financial and technical support coming from Iran. So he's outlining a history, okay, that their resistance was not possible and against the occupying force without Iran's facilitation, financially, in terms of actual equipment and resources, and then also with their technical expertise. Okay, so this is where, and he's saying explicitly that the other nations have abandoned us. So if Uthman bin FAROOQ is consistent, he would have to take this clip and either say that Yahya Sinwar is delusional, Yahya Sinwar is an Iranian agent, Yahya Sinwar has been fooled, like Rabbi Adnan said, he's a fool. He doesn't know that the Rawafid, that these Iranians are actually playing 5D chess by providing them missiles and whatever. It's all just theater, it's all a show. Or Uthman bin FAROOQ has to say that, well, the Arab nations have provided nothing. Arab nations have not provided anything, let alone boots on the ground. The Arab nations have actually provided nothing. In the recent, the mass uptick in killing and genocide that has happened in the past 25 years. I mean, that is the consistent position that Uthman would have to take. We have to ask him, for consistency. Okay, and here's Abu Ubaidah again.
إن شعبنا الذي تعرض للظلم ويعرف مرارته، ومقاومتنا التي نشأت على الكرامة وتعرف ثمنها، لتتقدم بالتحية وعظيم الشكر لمن شاركها في التصدي للظلم والطغيان والانخراط في معركة طوفان الأقصى. وهنا نخص إخوان الصدق أنصار الله وشعبنا الشقيق المبارك في يمن الحكمة والإيمان، الذين شعرنا كم يشبهون غزة وتشبههم في العظمة والكبرياء وفي التحدي والكرامة وفي النخوة والعزة، ففاجأ عنفوانهم العالم وفرضوا معادلات من حيث لا يحتسب العدو من وراءه، وشكلوا نموذجا فريدا تاريخيا كيف أنه متى توفرت الإرادة لمقاومة عدو الأمة فإن ذلك ممكن ولو من بعد مئات بل آلاف الأميال. فطوبى لليمن توأم الشام في وصية رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. كما نحيي إخوة المعركة ورفاق السلاح في المقاومة الإسلامية في لبنان، ومن ورائهم شعب لبنان الحر الذي طالما كان سندا ورديفا للمقاومة والثورة الفلسطينية منذ عقود طويلة، وقدم في هذه المعركة أثمانا باهظة من قيادة المقاومة وجنودها وأبناء الشعب اللبناني الشقيق، وجسدوا وحدة الدم والمصير والهدف مع إخوانهم في غزة وفلسطين. كما نحيي الإخوة في الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران على دعمهم الدائم المستمر وانخراطهم في هذه المعركة التاريخية بالوعد الصادق والإسناد المتواصل بكل السبل. وكذلك الإخوة الأحرار في المقاومة العراقية الباسلة، وأحرار الأردن المجاهدين الفدائيين الذين
All right, so there you go. There's Abu Ubaidah praising Iran again for their support and their involvement, and specifically attacks. And that video is from January 2025, which is a full 3 months before Uthman bin Farouk says that Iran for the first time attacked Israel. Okay. So then this is the successor. So Abu Ubaidah was martyred. Here is the successor to Abu Ubaidah as spokesperson for the Qassam brigades. And this is this is regarding the current war, the current attack by the US and Israel against Iran. This is what Hamas spokesman has to say about it.
الجرائم البشعة التي يرتكبها العدوان الصهيو أمريكي بحق أشقائنا في الجمهورية الإسلامية كمجزرة مدرسة ميناب لتذكر العالم بجرائم الإبادة في غزة. وفي هذا المقام ننعى جميع شهداء الجمهورية الأبرار وقادتها الكبار، وعلى رأسهم مرشد الثورة الإسلامية في إيران الشهيد الكبير السيد علي خامنئي. وإننا نتابع ببالغ الفخر والاعتزاز الضربات القوية التي ينفذها الحرس الثوري والقوات المسلحة الإيرانية في قلب الكيان الزائل بإذن الله في تل أبيب وعراد وديمونا وحيفا وغيرها، ردا على العدوان الصهيو أمريكي. وقد رأينا كيف ألحقت هذه الضربات الدمار الكبير بهذا الكيان الهش، وسقته من ذات الكأس التي سقاها للمستضعفين من قبل.
All right, so this is even during the current conflict, the Palestinian resistance fully in support of Iran, calling Khamenei a shaheed, the great shaheed, Sayyid Ali Khamenei. So this is what the Palestinian resistance is actually saying. So that's ultimately what you have to recognize, is that what Uthman bin Farouk and others, sectarians, Wahhabis, their arguments against Iran go counter to the Palestinian resistance, like clearly counter to it and in contradiction to it. And if you want to criticize me, like it's easy for Uthman bin Farouk to make a video criticizing me and criticizing my content, etc. But let's see a reaction to Abu Ubaidah and the Palestinian resistance from Uthman bin Farouk. Let's see a video where he actually responds and says, actually, no, we can't have unity. We can't support. These are Rafidah. They curse the Sahaba, blah, blah, blah. Like, let's see some consistency. And this is why I've said to these sectarians from the very beginning. Because it's easy to criticize Daniel. It's easy to try to isolate me and say, oh, Daniel is just a secret Rafidi. He's an agent of Iran. Okay, levy those accusations against the Palestinian resistance, against Yahya Sinwar, against Abu Ubaidah, against all of them, Ismail Haniyeh. And the only time that I was able to do that on a live stream was with Rabbi Adnan. And you saw the result. Rabbi Adnan had to reveal what was in his heart, which was disgust and abhorrence and contempt for the Palestinian resistance. He said they're fools. Okay, he insulted them like that. And some of them had been martyred at that point. He said they're fools for trusting Iran. And that was a very rare, candid moment where he was forced by me, because there was a live stream, he couldn't just dodge it, to express what was actually in his heart. And I have husn al-dhan of Uthman bin Farouk. I don't think that he has that same kind of animosity, hatred, contempt, condescension towards the Palestinian resistance. But maybe he should make that explicit and say that, no, he supports the Palestinian resistance, because that's something that he hasn't said, actually. Uthman bin Farouk, to my knowledge, has never said that he supports Palestinian resistance. The most that he said is that he makes generic dua for the Palestinians. He clearly prays against Israel and the Zionists. But there's one thing missing. Where has he actually supported the Palestinian resistance, or praised them, or supported the ability of the Palestinians to resist genocide and occupation and death and destruction, the Palestinian jihad? Like, when has he actually expressed support for that? To my knowledge, he never has. And that's consistent, like with these Gulf countries. It's consistent with a lot of Wahhabis, that not Uthman bin Farouk, but others. You know, you saw Shamsi right on October 7th, comes out and says that Hamas and the Palestinians are grave worshippers, they are rawafid, they are allying with the Rafidah, they're ikhwani, they're deviant. At best, they're deviant. At worst, they're mushrik. Like you saw Shamsi, okay? You saw the Wahhabis. You saw the Medkhali Wahhabis, especially, come out with this rhetoric. You saw Rabbi Faris come out with this rhetoric that just brazen attack, like open animosity towards the Palestinian resistance. Like that's their position. Like that's the position of the Palestinian resistance are evil, troublemakers, and they wish that there was no Palestinian resistance. They wish that Israel could have its way, there would be normalization, and there could be peace in the region. Peace meaning the status quo of a Zionist entity there parked on Palestinian land after committing genocide and displacement of the Palestinians. That's the status quo that all these Gulf countries want. Okay, when I say all, I mean Saudi and the UAE and Bahrain. I don't mean literally every single one. That's the status quo that they want with normalization with Israel, and that's what Saudi was working towards. And the Palestinian resistance, October 7th, destroyed that dream. So they have a lot of resentment towards the Palestinian resistance, and that's why they're constantly denouncing them as being deviant. They're ikhwani, they're grave worshippers, they're allied with the Rawafid. That's the line constantly coming from the Wahhabis, and they've only toned that down. Why? Because of the backlash, because the entire world, let alone the entire ummah, is in support of the Palestinians. They've kind of toned that down, and they leave that unsaid, and they just leave it to generic dua. Oh, may Allah free the Palestinians. Oh, may Allah curse the Zionists and destroy the Israeli oppression. Like they leave it to generic dua for that, but they never show support, explicit support to the Palestinian resistance. Now, again, I don't know what is in Uthman bin Farook's heart. Okay. It hasn't been revealed like it was revealed for Rabbi Adnan. I have Hosn Advan. I'm sure that he is in support of the Palestinian resistance. He's just never said it. He's just never actually come out and explicitly said it. And I think that that is something that raises a question. That raises a question that people should ask him. Okay, we're going to continue the reaction. There's just like 6 minutes left of the video, but I want to look at your super chats because I promised I would look at your super chats in the stream and respond to them. So Yemeni Q says, he jumped me with Warner and Adam Saleh because I told them they rather help Saudi bomb Yemen than help Palestine. He said wanted to talk to me. Okay, I don't know what that's referring to. He crossed the street. Ibn Farouk said he didn't work for government. Adam Saleh tried to join the argument. I said he weird and not even valid in Yemen. Okay, I'm not sure what that's referring to. Abdullah says, I was disappointed in the unbalanced approach he took. Yeah, I mean, these are the questions like we have to ask. Where's the consistency? Last word says, can you please provide advice and strategy on how to promote pan-Islamic unity between countries that have a lot of bad blood, such as Syria and Iran? My advice is, again, refer back to the Palestinian leadership. That's the number one point to use because the Palestinian leadership, they're the ones, and that's where I took my cue, okay? I wasn't on board with the Iranian government. I wasn't on board with Iran, that particular Islamic government, until October 7th when the Palestinians called for that. And I took my lead from the Palestinians. I took the what the Palestinians were calling for to heart and applied that. And I think any sincere Muslim who has seen what has happened to the Palestinians and their bravery and their courage and their jihad, their ability to resist, anyone who sees that and understands the truth of that is going to listen to their words because their words are coming from a place of sincerity. Their words are coming from a place of pure hearts. And that's where you get guidance from. That's where you get, those are the leaders. They're the imams for the ummah, spiritually. And if that's what they're calling for, that's a huge sign for us. And then, of course, we refer everything back to the Quran and Sunnah. And when we refer back to the Quran and Sunnah, we see that this is what is required. This is what is necessary. So that's my number one advice. Let's see. BXZ, thank you for the big super chat. Hope you're doing well, bro. Good to see you in the chat. Lord Meisland says, is that like the emoji for Islam? Geopolitics was tawakkul and raja before Iran. Yeah, that was for certain countries, the Islamic guidance is jihad. Like when it comes to Syria, all these scholars were saying, yeah, we have to go fight jihad in Syria against Bashar al-Assad. But for others, it's about patience and tawakkul. For Palestine and for Iran, it's all about patience and tawakkul. Brother Sean, thank you for your super chat. Brother Sean says, it's hypocritical of the brother to criticize you for giving this Shia brother a platform while he criticizes those who we revere, while he's sitting face to face with Hebrew Israelite that mocks the Prophet ﷺ on Jake Shields' podcast. Did Uthman bin Farooq do a podcast on this? I didn't. I must have missed it. He debated a Hebrew Israelite, or what was that about? That's interesting. I must have missed that. But yeah, I mean, if being on a platform with an enemy of Islam is a problem, then he's done a lot of that. Yemeni says, I asked him one-on-one, is Houthis kafir? He said no. Houthis? I don't think he takfirs the Houthis. Mesa Kammer says, someone please tell Uthman that Iran worked with the US and Israel in 1948, just like the current Pakistani government facilitating and giving face-saving to the US today. Yeah, Iran in 1948 was a puppet of the United States. The government was a puppet of the United States, just like today, a lot of these governments are puppets. Adam Saleh got weird history. Okay. Did Muslim Boogeyman, how's it going, bro? Did Brother Uthman email the Iranian leaders beforehand? I mean, isn't that what's necessary? To advise them in private? Nobe says, sorry, it's like cut off. Nobe says he usually never gets involved with internet drama, and I'm wondering why all of a sudden now. Hopefully you two can talk about it directly and not turn into another Jake situation. We need more unity in the Muslim community. Yeah, I hope that we can talk about it and have a discussion. I've tried to be respectful. I've tried to provide my respectful critique of Brother Uthman's position. And, you know, I don't want to try to dismiss him or his dawah. I think he's just mistaken. And I think we can have a conversation respectfully and in a friendly way about it. Wiz says, where is Turkey in 1948? It recognized Israel as state in 1949. Yeah, that is the secular state of Turkey back then. Now they're different, but back then that's what they were about. Nutty Caller says, I feel bad for Sheikh Uthman as his video had embarrassing factual errors, i.e. merging the stances of secular Iran with the Islamic Republic today. Yeah, we talked about that. I'm not going to read any kind of doxing tweet or super chat. BXC says, on a recent podcast, former Qatari PM said everyone in the GCC paid their share of the bill for Iraq invasion in 2003. Yeah, it's an open secret. It's an open secret, but somehow Iran is responsible for 2 million deaths. Yemeni says, people at his level, I noticed they big on making Shia look worse than Jews. They do this to justify alliance with West to kill Shia, but they misuse it. And you can use this on Sufis or anyone. Yeah, we'll talk about that. As a Yemeni, Iran saved Yemen. Without them, we would be like Dubai, bunch of takfiris. Since we have a big Shia population, I'm glad they funded them. Hamza Jadoun says, W David for unity. Thank you, I guess. Yeah, okay, you corrected it. W Daniel for unity. Appreciate your big super chat, bro. One Up Slime says, Uthman bin Farooq has also been silent on Sudan. Yeah, I mean, Sudan, Yemen, we're going to get to that in the reaction. BXC says 500 Iraqi Muslims because of 1990s siege due to Bin Baz and Ibn Uthaymin fatwa Madeleine Albright said it was worth it. Yeah, 500,000 Iraqi Muslim children because of the blockade from the US, and Saudi was in agreement with the US at that time. Okay, so let's continue, and I'll get to the rest of the super chats and your comments at the end.
Have shot 250 missiles towards Israel, but over 1,000 against other Muslims recently. Against places like Qatar, places like Emirat, places like Kuwait, people like Saudi, countries that did not even allow the US to use their air bases or to use their airspace. Countries that were not involved in an initial attack, that the US had to use their aircraft carriers in the ocean because these countries didn't allow them to use their airspace. Countries that have said that they did not want this invasion to happen.
All right, so he's just repeating a kind of propaganda line from the Gulf that the Saudi and Bahrain and Kuwait, etc., UAE, didn't allow the US and Israel to use their bases and their airspace. This is the line that they used exactly in the same way that they used it in 2003 with the Iraq invasion, but it's false. Like, it's just demonstrably false, and there's all this evidence that can be provided. Here's like one small piece of evidence. Like, this is like the official like flight trackers showing that planes are flying out of Israel and they're going over Saudi airspace to go bomb Iran. Like, this is undeniable like flight tracking data. And so this is just like a denial of reality to say that Saudi is not allowing its airspace to be used, or Kuwait for that matter. Okay. Many examples of flight tracking. And then there were many reports. Like, there's been reports from officials from the countries in the US and also in the Gulf saying that Gulf allies are privately making the case to Trump to keep fighting until Iran is decisively defeated. Like, they're pushing for aggression towards Iran. And so, of course, Iran has to defend itself. Of course, Iran has to defend itself against this aggression that's being launched from these Gulf countries. Yeah, so many reports from different sources. And then the Trump himself is thanking these countries for their help.
Thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form.
Al Arabiya, which is a Saudi outlet, reporting on Trump, saying this, thanking these countries for their support. Like, Trump is not like just doling out praise, by the way, for other countries. Like, he slammed the Europeans, he slammed a lot of the Asian countries for not coming to help with the attack on Iran. But he has praise, he has thanks to give to these Gulf allies. It's interesting, right? That's Trump from the horse's mouth.
Well, thank you for the question. The chairman mentioned the UAE and Bahrain and Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, who have fought shoulder to shoulder with us, especially in defense of our facilities, of our people, of their facilities, and we appreciate that. So that coordination, of course, will continue.
Pete Hegseth himself, from the horse's mouth. They've been fighting shoulder to shoulder. This is from April 8th, 2026, okay? Earlier this month, just last week. Pete Hegseth saying they've fought shoulder to shoulder, defending us, defending our facilities. Okay? So, I mean, what other kind of source do you need?
And I want to thank, as the Secretary did, our Gulf partners who fought alongside each and every one of us every day. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, all who joined us together to defend and protect our people and our assets, and who, if required, stand ready to do so again.
All right, so the U.S. is attacking Iran, killing thousands of people, bombing little girls in school. And these Gulf allies of the U.S. are protecting the U.S. Okay? So these are four-star generals. Literally the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is making these public statements. But we're supposed to just believe, okay, that no, this propaganda, that no, we don't allow them to use our airspace. even though we have flight trackers showing that they are using Saudi airspace, Kuwaiti, etc., to attack Iran. So this kind of dishonesty should tell you something, you know. It should tell you about what these governments are actually about in the Gulf.
وهذه رسالة مني.
And here's Uthman al-Khamis. Okay, he's based in Kuwait, Kuwaiti scholar. And this is what he had to say, like right at the beginning of the war, when Iran retaliated against Kuwait. This is his message from me to our heroic soldiers.
إلى جنودنا الأبطال المرابطين على الباتريوت وغيره لحماية هذه البلاد، أعني بلاد الإسلام جميعا سواء كان دول الخليج أو غيرهم.
All right, so this clip went viral of Uthman al-Khamis, Kuwaiti scholar, saying he's praising the patriotic soldiers at Batriot. Batriot. Okay, what's Batriot? He's talking about the Camp Patriot army base in Kuwait. So in this clip, he went viral. Like this clip of Uthman al-Khamis went viral in the Arab world. And they're saying he's praising the Kuwaiti soldiers that are defending the U.S. air base, and he's calling them mujahideen, who are defending all of Islam. These are the mujahideen who protect a U.S. air base that's attacking a Muslim country, that's attacking Iran. Like, this is the mujahideen. So Uthman al-Khamis became completely discredited by so many in the Arab world because he's basically whitewashing U.S. invasion against a Muslim country, aggression against a Muslim country. Patriot, okay? The Camp Patriot is one of the latest camps established in Kuwait and run by the U.S. Army. U.S. Army base.
Look, you may not realize this, but the Palestinian people receive more support from that Gulf than any other region in the world. In fact, 1.8 billion, yes, with a B, from the United Arab Emirates.
1.8 billion for the Palestinians, 1 trillion for Donald Trump. Okay? 1 trillion the UAE gave to Donald Trump, but 1.8 billion, like, what is 1/1000th of a trillion is a billion, right? Given to the Palestinians. But Uthman says this is a big deal. 1.8 billion. That's a big, with a B. It's a big deal.
1.5 billion with a B from Qatar, and huge amounts from Saudi and Kuwait and so on. And that's the countries being attacked. Their economies are being attacked. Those people are paying salaries of the people in Gaza. I'm not saying it's enough. The Muslim Ummah needs to do more, no doubt to that.
All right, the Muslim countries need to do more, but they still should get credit, and they should still be praised for the couple billion that they gave somehow to Palestinians. But Iran, when they're actually supplying the arms and the finances and the expertise for Palestinian resistance for decades, oh, but they haven't actually put boots on the ground. Interesting standards of judgment there. Okay, so yeah, are we ignoring, like, is Uthman bin FAROOQ ignoring? He mentions the UAE specifically. They've normalized with Israel. Have you heard of the Abraham Accords? Like, does that mean anything to you? Okay, there you go. There you have MBZ sitting there with Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel. Here is the UAE embassy in Israel. This was last year, okay, 2025. The embassy in Tel Aviv held a festive gathering in iftar. They're having iftars for the Zionists in Israel. Okay, this is during a genocide. During a genocide, they're stuffing their faces, eating the iftar as if, like, that will count for them in anything. I guess eating iftar before they eat fire in the akhirah, right? This is the UAE that, gave $1 billion. They gave it 1.8 billion with a B to the Palestinians while they're whining and dining the Zionists in Tel Aviv for iftar and Ramadan in an act of genocide while the Palestinians are being starved to death. Okay, UAE ambassador to Israel in attendance at an iftar event alongside the Israeli president ignites widespread criticism. This was another event. Like, they're constantly doing iftars together. The UAE and Israel constantly want to break bread, break their fast together. Okay, so I want to give more detail. In just summary, this could be the subject of an entire documentary, but to what extent, it's not just that the UAE and Saudi have not helped Palestine in any substantive way. They've actually assisted the Zionist occupation and the Zionist genocide of Palestinians. They've helped the United States and Israel in enacting this kind of genocide against the Palestinians. How so? Well, militarily. Okay, this is just a brief list. You can go and find all the receipts for this very easily with a Google search. Leaked October 2023 government document showed that the UAE was offering tanks, missiles, logistics, intelligence from its bases in Yemen, Eritrea, and Somalia to help Israel, quote, defeat the terrorists in Palestine. Okay, so the UAE, as I mentioned before, they hate the Palestinian resistance and they want to see the Palestinian resistance defeated. And they were, from October 2023, providing all kinds of military support to Israel. Secondly, UAE joined the US-led CENTCOM regional security construct with Israel for joint planning, trainings, and radar intel sharing, including on Hamas and Palestinian resistance tunnels. UAE firms and partners provided arms to Israeli military contractors during the war. Fourth, Saudi shared radar and intel and helped the US-led coalition intercept 99% of Iran's April 2024 and later missiles drone attacks on Israel. Okay, is this a problem? Like, is this something that Uthman bin FAROOQ will counter? Like, Iran wasn't attacking Saudi. Iran was attacking Israel with Operation True Promise. And Saudi actually helped the US intercept these drones and missiles headed towards Tel Aviv. Is that something that they should be blamed for? Saudi participated in the same Israeli-Arab coordination on Iran and the Houthis. Okay, so Saudi was participating in neutralizing Iran and neutralizing Yemen in their aggression against Israel. So that's militarily. What about economically? Economically, the UAE saw trade grow 11% in 2023 and 2024 and held secret talks on post-Hamas Gaza governance and reconstruction. So they're under the table. They're actually expanding their economic trade and ties with Israel. Okay? That's the UAE. Saudi facilitated a land bridge to bypass Houthi Red Sea blockade. Saudi quietly allowed overland truck routes so goods reached Israel by road in 4 days instead of 14 plus days by sea. So the Houthis, okay, so that you understand this, the Houthis or Al-Ansar of Yemen were blocking the Red Sea, the Bab al-Mandab Strait, okay, preventing shipping, cargo shipping to reach the ports of Israel, southern Israel. This caused economic distress in Israel. What does Saudi do? Does Saudi help Yemen with this blockade? No. Saudi helps Israel to bypass the blockade through a road, a land bridge where trucks can be overloaded with cargo from the sea, coming into Saudi ports, and then driving to Israel overland. Saudi was able to assist and provide relief to Israel so that the Yemeni blockade was less effective. The Yemeni blockade, which was designed to cause Israel pressure so that they would stop killing Palestinians. Saudi actually helped Israel in that case. Did we see any criticism of Saudi Arabia from the Wahhabis, from Uthman bin FAROOQ, from the sectarians? No. No, they don't mention this. They don't talk about this. Diplomatically, okay, what did UAE and Saudi do? UAE kept full normalization, okay, this whole time. Genocide of Palestinians are going. Does the UAE actually cut diplomatic relations, recall their ambassador, close their embassy in Tel Aviv? Or, no, actually, they don't. They hold iftars. They hold iftars and they drink wine together in Ramadan with the Zionist monsters. Okay, they kept their ambassador in Tel Aviv. They held secret talks on post-Hamas Gaza governance. Saudi condemned Hamas attacks, pushed for Hamas disarmament as precondition for any Saudi role in Gaza day after, and avoided full diplomatic isolation of Israel. Saudi is playing a part, okay? Saudi is right there, and they just have to be more subtle about it because they are worried about backlash. Okay, so bottom line, Saudi and UAE are the partners of Israel and have since 2023 consistently worked with Israel in facilitating the mass extermination of Palestinians in Gaza. That's the bottom line. But we have to be critical of Iran. We can't have unity Iran. We can't have unity with Saudi. We can't have unity with the Emirates. We can't have unity with Bahrain. We can't have unity with all these states because the blood of Palestinians apparently is cheap. The blood of Palestinians is cheap. We can actually overlook the Palestinian blood and death and destruction and starvation of children. We can overlook that and praise Saudi Arabia and the UAE and continue to support them either by words or by visiting and constantly, supporting their economy.
These Arab countries like Egypt and Syria and others at a time had put boots on the ground. Iran.
Yeah, you're talking about the 1948 Arab War, you're talking about the Yom Kippur War. Yeah, everyone knows that history. What happened to those countries? What happened to those Arab countries? What happened to Egypt? What happened to Syria? What happened to Jordan? They all normalized. Okay, Syria's, de facto kind of normalized because of Goilani now. But even before that, okay, Egypt, Jordan, they've all normalized. So, what is your point here? What is your point? How is Iran culpable but not these countries that have normalized?
It only attacked Israel when it was attacked to protect itself. In fact, Ismail Haniyeh, the Palestinian representative, was killed inside a secure IRGC compound inside of Iran. How? It wasn't a drone. It was a bomb that was planted. How did they know?
All right, so this is implying that Iran is working with Israel to kill Ismail Haniyeh, assassinate him. Okay, there are many examples of Israel assassinating Palestinian leaders in Muslim countries. And here's one example, the assassination of Mahmoud al-Mabhouh. Okay, Mabhouh. And he was let's read this, a co-founder of the Qassam Brigades, military wing of Hamas, was wanted by the Israeli government. Okay, he was assassinated in his hotel room in Dubai. This was the assassination was in 2010. Okay, so does that mean that by Uthman's logic, that means that UAE government is working with the Israelis to assassinate Palestinian leaders? That's actually plausible, okay? That's actually plausible, besides what Uthman is saying. But if Uthman is consistent, then he should have the same kind of criticism for the UAE.
People before him, like Ali Raza Asghar, in 2007, he defected and he's been living in the U.S. because he was working for the U.S. and Israel while pretending to be a part of that regime. When in 20...
how is that a point against Iran? He was a defector from the Islamic Republic. He was a spy, basically, and he can't live in Iran. If he was working with the Iranian government, then why did he leave? Why did he have to escape Iran? That's not a point against Iran.
2020 and 2025, when Iran lobbed missiles at the U.S. bases, they gave them a heads up.
As حدود
missiles. It's all just theater, Iran's aggression towards Israel, it's just theater, guys. What's really doing damage to Israel is the UAE and Saudi giving money, giving billions with a B. That's what's really, moving the needle. So this is what Iran said about the strike.
72 ساعت قبل از عملیات به همسایگان عزیزمون و به کشورهای منطقه اطلاع دادیم.
They gave them a warning. Hey, we're going to do this for show. Make sure there's nobody there.
Yeah, this was because Iran, okay, this was after Operation one of the true promises, okay, Iran, oh no, it was after the 12-day war. It was after Operation Midnight Hammer. And the US, Donald Trump struck Fordo with these bunker-busting bombs dropped from B-2 bombers. And then Iran, this was the previous doctrine that they had of strategic patience and being very careful about not escalating, going very slowly on the escalation ladder. They wanted to strike the US in a symbolic strike, okay? And so they struck Al Udeid in Qatar. And they said, like, as respect to Qatar, that, hey, we're going to do this strike, and we're telling you in advance to make sure that none of your personnel or assets are harmed. This is supposed to be against the United States. So this is a point against Iran. Like, Iran is doing this as symbolically, and they're even saying it's a symbolic strike. They're saying it's a symbolic strike because they didn't want to escalate against the U.S. at that time. Maybe they hadn't been prepared, or they wanted, because the U.S. and Israel had a surprise attack against them, they needed to prepare for a longer engagement, which they did with the February 28th attack again by the U.S. So how is this a point against Iran? Like, I don't get it. Like, when Iran is nice with its neighbors and Iran is nice to Qatar and the Gulf countries, that's a problem. That's just theater. But then when they lob real missiles and take out real U.S. bases in Bahrain, in Qatar, in Saudi, in UAE, oh, that's aggression against the peaceful Gulf countries who did nothing. Didn't do nothing is the line of these Gulf regimes. So which one is it, Uthman?
This is documented. This is theater. This is them trying to survive as a regime. We as Muslims cannot fall for this. This is nonsense.
معمولا کسی که شهید میشه شما چند ساعت ازش فیلم هم گرفتید خوشحال میشی که حداقل یه چیز دارید ازش.
نه اتفاقا من داشتم به وحید گفتم عمو مهدی خیلی خوبه شهید بشه ولی چند سال بعد شهید بشه.
چند سال بعد؟ چند سال؟
دیگه اون موقعی که
به من بگو چند سال؟
اصلا بعد اسرائیل.
5 سال؟
اسرائیل نبود.
نه اسرائیل نازی نیست ریاض. نه اسرائیل نازی نیست ریاض. نه اسرائیل نازی نیست ریاض. سعودی.
آمریکا.
سعودی.
الان سعودی
آمریکا دست ترامپ ان شاء الله خراب میشه.
We as
So this is a clip from one of the Iraqi generals, and I guess one of them is from Iraq, the other one's from Iran, and they're saying, oh, we want to get rid of Riyadh. Riyadh is the #1 priority, even above America. And that's the entire doctrine. Like, Iran, if you look at the history since 1979, like, their strategic objective, their strategic priority has just been to push out American and Israeli influence, because American and Israeli influence is a disaster, has been a major threat to Iran all these years, and it's all culminating now in the past 2 years. Their whole strategy has been to push out the U.S. through the use of proxies in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iraq. Like, that's been their whole strategy. And yeah, it is for their own interests. It is to defend Iran. But as I mentioned, like, that's the same for any Muslim country. And it should be praised. Any Muslim country should defend its borders against aggression and occupation and nonstop genocide. And we don't have any problem when the Palestinians do it, when Afghanistan does it, when Iraq does it. It's only a problem when Iran does it. And we have to impute these kinds of un-Islamic motives, even though it's 100% in line with Islam. So what Iran views Riyadh as is as an agent of America. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and some of these Gulf countries are just agents. They're just puppets of America and Israel. And so if you want to actually counter America and Israel, you have to get rid of the puppets. That's Iran's logic, okay? And that logic is affirmed when these countries are allowing the U.S. to use their land and their airspace to launch attacks, which are killing thousands of Iranians, okay? Not to mention sanctions, okay? How many thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Iranians over the decades have been killed due to U.S. sanctions? That's another factor that is not really commented upon, but the Gulf countries, many of them, are also complicit in this blockade, in this economic sanctions of Iran as well.
Muslims need to unite, but on the Quran, on the Sunnah, and the way of the Sahaba, the way of the Salaf al-Ummah, upon Tawheed, not upon Shirk, not upon cursing those that were the most beloved to Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need to stand together. He is telling you he curses your mother. If it was your biological mother.
By the way, Uthman bin Farouk doesn't believe in standing with other Sunnis. Okay, I think that should be known. Uthman bin Farouk doesn't believe in standing and cooperating with other Sunnis that he considers to be deviant or to be upon shirk. So obviously my interaction, which went viral, was with Deobandis. I said I'm a fan of Deoband, and he had a big problem with that, right? And they refuse, like Authentic Ilm Mission, his organization, they refuse to work with Deobandis. They refuse to work with traditional Sunnis, and they accuse these groups of being upon shirk, or some of their scholars being upon shirk, being deviant, and they can't work with them. So his message is not like some kind of pan-Sunni unity. That's not his position. Like, let's be very honest about what he actually believes. He doesn't believe in pan-Sunni unity, let alone pan-Islamic unity. So that's kind of that might have been lost in this video and some of the discussion, but it's important to keep in mind, because back then, that was before October 7th, I was calling for pan-Sunni unity. I was calling for pan-Sunni unity in that specific context of Sunni organizations, like doing dawah and having conferences and so forth, cooperating on different initiatives. I wanted pan-Sunni unity, but even that is too much. That was too much for Uthman bin Farouk and many of these other, followers of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. Like that's the reality. So see where that gets you. Like, see where this nonstop sectarianism gets you. Like, it's a shame.
If it was your father, if it was your relative and somebody was cursing them, how angry would you get? You should get more angry than that when somebody curses Aisha radhiyallahu anha, the mother of the believers.
All right, so cursing, like I've had this debate, like, does insulting certain companions, including Aisha radhiyallahu anha, does that take you outside of Islam? Does it actually take you outside of Islam? And the answer is, according to the majority of Sunni scholars, no. No, it does not take you outside of Islam. And they base this on the fact that the Sahaba themselves were fighting each other, like, and killing each other, and after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's deviant, it's something that's wrong, it's something that is denounced, but does it actually take you outside of Islam? And I presented the evidence for this. I had a formal debate. Does insult, just by itself, of specific companions, does that take you outside of Islam? No. And so the Shia who do this, are they still Muslims? Yes. So what does Islam say? Islam says that you should unite with them. You should ally with them against an enemy force, against a kafir enemy force. Like, that's just the orthodox Sunni position. It's not based on emotion. So even if someone comes and curses my mom, okay, my own biological mom, my own biological dad, it's a Muslim who curses my parents, for example, do I ally with them against a genocidal force like the United States and Israel? Yes. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. So the entire hypothetical that he's giving doesn't even make sense. Yes, I would ally with someone who's insulting my biological parents. And in the case of insulting the companions, yes, you would ally with someone who is insulting some of these companions. Yes. And this is the position of Ibn Taymiyyah. This is the position that he has given, not only in Majmu' al-Fatawa, but also Minhaj al-Sunnah. And he makes this argument. And for some reason, I didn't include the screenshot. Let me pull it up. I thought I pasted it, actually. Where did it go? Let me pull it up. I don't know where. Like, I made all of these slides. Did I not put the slides in the video? Hold on. I goofed. Like, all these Ibn Taymiyyah quotes, and they're not. Okay, here's one. Ibn Taymiyyah was asked about a man who prefers the Jews and Christians over the Shia. He replied, whoever believes in what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought is better than everyone who disbelieves in it. And if that believer endorses some kind of heresy, whether it's the heresy of the Khariji, the Khawarij, the Shia, the Murji'a, the Qadariya, or others, it must be kept in mind that the Jews and Christians are known to be disbelievers in Islam with necessity, but the heretic, if he considers himself to agree with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam rather than disagreeing with the Messenger, then that heretic is not a kafir in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if it's assumed that the heretic disbelieves, then his disbelief is not like the disbelief of a person who considered the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be a liar. Okay, so first point, Ibn Taymiyyah does not do mass takfir of the Shia, to the chagrin of the Wahhabis and the sectarians. Ibn Taymiyyah considered the Shia to be Muslim, okay, or at least a faction within the Shia. And then furthermore, he says that, what about those who prefer Jews and Christians above the Shia? He says this makes no sense. It makes no sense because if you go with the correct position, his position that the Shia are heretics as opposed to all being kuffar, then you have to prefer a heretic, Ahlul Bid'ah, over a disbeliever. And Jews and Christians are disbelievers known by necessity. So the order of preference is you have to prefer the Shia. So if there's a war between them, you have to prefer the Shia. You have to support the Shia over the Jew and the Christian. So that's point one. But even if you go so far and think that the Shia are kuffar, that they're actually disbelievers, even then you still prefer them over the Jews and Christians because that they are kafir according to your view, but they're still kafir in believing in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They still agree with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in many things. They pray, they fast, they read the Quran, they do Hajj. Okay, so they should still be considered, even if pretending that they are disbelievers, they're still going to be better disbelievers than the Jews and the Christians. The Jews and the Christians who reject mutlaqan completely the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do you see the logic of Ibn Taymiyyah there? Like, it's not like a low IQ Wahhabi logic. Okay, this is Shaykhul Islam. Okay, so then, so that's one quote. Let me add the other quote. I knew I was forgetting something. Even if it were assumed that the Muslims were wrongdoers, sinners, and openly committing types of bid'ah worse than the cursing of Ali and Uthman, an intelligent person would still weigh between the greater of two benefits and the worse of two harms. Interesting, right? That he mentions the cursing of Sahaba there. Okay? Don't you see that Ahlul Sunnah, even though they say what they say about the Khawarij and Rawafid and other groups of bid'ah, okay, he didn't call them groups of kufr, he said groups of bid'ah, still do not assist the kuffar in giving victory to their religion, nor do they prefer the dominance of kufr and its people over the dominance of bid'ah less than kufr. Okay? So don't you see that Ahlul Sunnah, okay, they view the Khawarij and they view the Shia, the Rawafid, the Twelvers, as Ahlul Bid'ah. But they still do not assist the kuffar and they do not prefer the dominance of the kuffar over these groups. Over these groups. Okay, so all of these sectarians and Wahhabis say, we don't prefer anyone. We're neutral. We want them to destroy each other. Israel and Iran should destroy each other. This is contrary to Ibn Taymiyyah. And Ibn Taymiyyah gives the logic, okay? He gives the logic of it, that this is just like the maslahah, the greater, way between the greater of two benefits and the worse of two harms. Okay, so an intelligent person would still weigh, right? Aqil is the word. Aql, someone who has aql. The aqil is one who weighs the benefits and the harms, and from just a rational basis, you can see that why would you support Israel? Like, how could you not support Iran in this situation, even when they're Ahlul Bid'ah, even in the light of cursing of the companions? Like, it's so relevant, right, to what Uthman has just been saying in this video. So that's Ibn Taymiyyah, okay? So don't argue with Daniel, okay? Little old Daniel what does Daniel know? Argue with Ibn Taymiyyah.
He's telling you, he does it often. He curses the Sahaba. He takes them as hypocrites and kuffar. He makes takfir on them. He's telling you himself. And you're sitting there trying to unite with this man? These are people that have unleashed chemical weapons on children in Syria. These are people that tortured over 1 million people and killed them in Iraq. These are people that started wars all over the Middle East, from Yemen and turmoil in Lebanon.
Yeah, it's interesting how he mentions Yemen, like who caused mass death in Yemen. So human rights groups say that nearly 400,000 Yemenis killed, okay, according to the UN. And what is the cause of this? Yemenis being killed? It's the Saudi blockade. It's like a Saudi coalition with other Gulf countries to blockade Yemen, which has caused the death of 400,000, okay, in the past 10 years. Okay, blockade of Yemen. The blockade of Yemen refers to a sea, land, and air blockade on Yemen, which started with the positioning of Saudi Arabian warships in Yemeni waters in 2015, with the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen in November 2017 after a Houthi missile heading towards King Khalid International Airport was intercepted. The Saudi-led military coalition stated it would close all sea, land, and airports to Yemen, but shortly began reopening them after criticism from the UN, and over 20 aid groups and some humanitarian supplies were allowed into the country. In March 2021, Saudi Arabia denied the blockade continued. However, UN-authorized ships continued to be delayed by Saudi warships. And on December 2025, the Yemeni Presidential Leadership Council declared a 72-hour-long air, sea, and land blockade in the face of southern Yemen offensive. The blockade has contributed to the current famine in Yemen, which the UN said may become the deadliest famine in decades. The World Health Organization announced in 2017 that the number of suspected persons with cholera in Yemen reached approximately 500,000 people, 500,000. In 2018, Save the Children estimated that 85,000 children have died due to starvation in the 3 years prior. So is the blood of Yemen cheap? And that's the question that I have. Like, if the blood of Syrians is not cheap, is the blood of Yemenis cheap? That's the blockade. And then what about Sudan? What about Sudan? The UAE backing RSF, committing a genocide in Sudan. The Sudan itself takes the UAE to world court over complicity in genocide. That's what's happening. That's what was happening before this war with Iran. Does Uthman bin FAROOQ have anything to say about the UAE involvement with Sudan? No, he has nothing on record criticizing the UAE government. Maybe he needs to go have another sit-down session, have a nice, serious conversation with the royalty in Dubai, maybe, about what they are doing, backing RSF, these militia groups that cause genocide, creating genocide in Sudan. Is Sudanese blood cheap? Is the blood of the Sudanese brothers, Muslims, and sisters, and children, is that cheap? Have to wonder. Okay, and this is the point that I always bring when, addressing these sectarian arguments against Iran. So when we look at the kind of damage and destruction and death in the Muslim world over the past 2 or 3 decades, Sunni Africans killed in Sudan. The death toll is probably way more than 300,000 at this point, but 300,000 Sunni Africans killed. Who was responsible for that? Other Sunnis, including the UAE and others. But that's not mentioned. That's not blood that we have to worry about, apparently. In Yemen, nearly 400,000 killed, many of them Sunni. Do we talk about that? Is that something? Who should we blame for that? Who should be held responsible for that? That's not mentioned. When it comes to Shia Iraqis killed by Saddam Hussein, 50,000. That's the low estimate. The Marsh Arab Shiis in southern part of Iraq who were killed, massacred by Sunni Saddam Hussein, that's not mentioned. Okay, that doesn't ever factor into any analysis. The Kurds in Iraq that were killed, 100,000 Sunni Kurds killed by Saddam Hussein, a Sunni, that's never mentioned. Assad-allied Syrians killed. Okay, so there were civilians who were allied on the Assad side, 200,000. So many of them were Sunni. Do those Sunnis count for anything? No, they're not mentioned. Only look at Syria. Only look at Syria, the 400,000 that were killed by the Assad, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia alliance. Only focus on that number, and that number is all determinative. That number is all important. Because of that number, we can't have any alliance with Iran. But we can't have alliance with Russia. We can't have alliance with Iran. We can't with U.S. We can't have alliance with Israel. We can literally normalize with Israel in the Abraham Accords. We can have an alliance with the Saudi government, with the UAE government, with the Bahrain government, with the Egyptian government, with all these governments, with the Jordanian government. We can have alliances across the board with these Sunni states, with these Sunni governments. It's only Iran that we cannot ally with. Isn't that ridiculous? Like, that's not only ridiculous, it's outrageous. Like, it's outrageous, and when you put it like that, it's just so clearly is Zionist propaganda. Like, it's so clearly Zionist propaganda in this moment when they want to take out Iran, the last country that is standing between them and complete regional, if not global, hegemony. When you put it like that, it sounds so clearly to be propaganda against Iran. And again, I'm not saying that Uthman bin FAROOQ is a propagandist for Israel. I truly believe that he hates Zionism and he's against the fake state of Israel. However, I think people can become props and tools for an Israeli narrative. And especially if you have any connection to the Gulf and you're making trips to Saudi Arabia, you want to be able to go to Saudi Arabia, and that legitimizes you. Like, you get a lot of authority when you can do like a lesson, like a selfie video with the Kaaba behind you or with the Haram behind you. Like, that actually provides you a lot of kind of this authority on social media. So having access to the Haramain is actually very significant, and social media influencers know that. So there's pressure on you to toe a certain line, to toe a certain propaganda line, to push a certain narrative. And, that's the reality. Like, and I say this with as much respect as possible, as much respect and politeness as possible. And it can be said without respect, but I choose to be respectful. I choose to be cordial, and I hope that can be appreciated. Because I don't want to detract from the good work that Uthman bin FAROOQ does. Okay, he does good work. And I hope he sticks to that. I hope he sticks to the good work that he does, doing dawah to Christians, showing them the contradictions in the Bible and how the Trinity is nonsensical. That's great. Keep doing that. Keep chugging along on that path. That's good for you. Don't get into geopolitics. Don't get into history. Like, there was no Islamic Republic in 1948, Islamic Republic of Iran. Just stay out of those issues. Just stick to the good that you're doing, mashallah, and Allah will increase you in that. Okay, and that was the end of it. And that's the reiterating the AIM statement that we need unity with the Shia that they put out, and then within 24 hours, they retracted it. All right, guys, that is my reaction to Uthman bin FAROOQ's video. Brother Uthman. I think someone was saying that he's a mufti now. It's Mufti Uthman. It's amazing. I didn't know that he went and did a degree in Ifta. In issuing fatwa now. He's Mufti Uthman. So. Okay, I'm not going to read any kind of tweets or super chats that give out personal information. Like, someone's talking about, like, stuff that might be problematic to share. So I'm not going to put that. ZXMB says, Daniel, do you think Anan and Jake are dating? I don't know what that means. Jalaluddin Rumi says, I don't understand the point of saying no boots when the Gulf not only did not help but had treaties with the enemy. Just saying we're not doing enough does not mean anything. True. Amina says, much love and respect from Palestine. Thank you very much. May Allah bless all our Palestinian brothers and sisters and protect you. The Prudent One says, can you review Imam Tom Fachin's new 3-part video series on Iran and Sunni Shia? A collab with him could be beneficial. Yeah, I'm happy to collab with Imam Tom. I didn't see the entire series. I saw the last video in the series. And I thought it was pretty good. He's going really far. Imam Tom is saying that these are munafiqeen, who are, against pan-Islamic unity. He goes pretty far. He drops the gauntlet in that 3rd video. So good on Imam Tom, and he's gonna get pressure for that. He's gonna get a lot of pressure. So I hope he can withstand that pressure. But I'm happy to collaborate with Imam Tom. I don't agree with his institution. I don't agree with Yaqeen Institute, as you all know. But, Yaqeen Institute, if it has like one bright point, I'd have to say it's Imam Tom. Like, I really like Imam Tom for multiple reasons. And I pray for, good for him, inshallah. So, yeah, I'd love to collab with Imam Tom. SZG says, which Muslim nation might endure World War III while Pakistan holds nukes? The Iran conflict suggests Gulf states lack true resilience. Who actually possesses the strategic depth to survive such a total war? The Muslim nations that can survive are basically the Muslim nations that can build and maintain their own weapons. And currently there are 3 main countries who do that. It is Iran, it is Turkey, and it's Pakistan. Like, those 3 countries. So it's very important for those 3 countries to create an alliance, cut out the US and Israeli influence, and be independent and work towards the interests of the Ummah. And it's for their own interests, right? Iran is doing that. Iran wants to create pan-Islamic unity. That is part of the Islamic Revolution, and that's part of why the Gulf has considered Iran to be such a threat since 1979. And that's why Iran is constantly lumped in with Ikhwan al-Muslimin, because Ikhwan al-Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood, deeply impacted Khomeini and Khamenei and the leadership of Iran in the Islamic Revolution. And that vision, that Sunni vision of pan-Islamic unity, they're getting it from Ikhwan al-Muslimin. They're getting it from the Muslim Brotherhood. So Iran is on the right, has the right mindset. Turkey and Pakistan need to get on the right mindset more and more, hopefully. Zahir says, why does Sneeko get a private call for an hour when calling for unity, but they refuse to deal with you privately and get publicly keep attacking you? Yeah, because they know that private conversation is not going to do anything. They know that they don't actually want a private conversation with me anymore. Like, they want a private conversation with Sneeko because Sneeko is just a new Muslim and he's not necessarily an expert in the subject. And so they can hope to influence him with a private conversation and tell him things that they would be embarrassed to say publicly. That's why they have it private with Sneeko. But yes, Sneeko, if Sneeko continues on the same path of pan-Islamic unity, for sure they're going to start calling him out publicly. Like, they're going to start canceling him. You can, write that down, and that's going to happen. So it depends on Sneeko. Is Sneeko going to continue to be as vocal? We'll see. Hopefully, Allah will keep him steadfast. But if he does stay vocal, if he does stay consistent, then his friends, his Wahhabi friends, are going to start publicly attacking him, discrediting him. They've already started, by the way. They've already started counter-signaling Sneeko and saying that, yeah, he has some wrong views, and be careful, don't follow him so closely. Like, they're already starting to counter-signal him. Mesa says, Uthman bin FAROOQ looked like he's reading from a teleprompter. I don't think he was reading from a teleprompter, but I do think he got some notes. Brother Uthman is getting his history from Adnan Rashid. Maybe. Hopefully not. Gin Toki says Uthman claims he got stabbed, yet no police report. Amir Hamza says, I grew up in San Diego. I've known Uthman since he was a teenager. He's a clown who can't even read the Quran properly, but he is a mufti somehow. Okay, I don't know about that. I don't know about stabbing, all this, like this other extra stuff. Okay, I'm not an expert on Uthman bin Farouk's life story. All I know is that Uthman bin Farouk, especially in San Diego, like he does dawah and he's effective. A lot of people have become Muslim through his dawah. So I can appreciate, you know, we all have faults, okay? We all have flaws. So I don't want to go all out and criticize Uthman bin Farouk, okay? Because as far as I can tell, he's not like, this is the first kind of video that he's put out where he's attacking me and he's attacking pan-Islamic unity. So I respond. And so people who say that, oh, Daniel has a problem with everyone and Daniel attacks everyone. I didn't attack Uthman bin Farouk. Like, I didn't make a video against him. This is a response to his video against me. And he puts my picture in the thumbnail and he plays the clip and he is criticizing me in that video with his, 1 million subscribers or whatever. So I'm trying to be respectful. I'm trying to be polite. I'm trying to be brotherly. And I'm responding in an objective way with academic facts to his claim. And I invited him to have a civil discussion, a brotherly discussion about it. And he didn't accept that so far. Maybe he'll accept it in the future. So I don't have this agenda to just take down these du'ats. Like, they attack me. Like, they are the ones who attack me, who criticize me, because I have a position that is politically incorrect, but it's Islamically correct. And that's the only thing that I care about, is something Islamically correct. I don't care if it's politically incorrect. I don't care if it goes against the agenda of certain Gulf states or the agenda of certain royalty, monarchs. I don't care about that. I care about what is correct Islamically. And unfortunately, that makes you a target. That makes you a target and you get attacked. And unlike others, when I get attacked, I'm going to defend myself. I'm not going to sit down or roll over and turn the other cheek. No, I'm going to defend my position when my position is the Islamic position. And pan-Islamic unity is the Islamic position. It's the position of the Palestinian resistance. It's the position of every sincere, God-fearing Muslim who wants to see the Ummah saved from the genocidal agenda of the United States and Israel. Simple as, nothing more to it. That's what I'm responding to. That's what I'm responding to. I have no ill will towards Uthman bin Farouk or anyone else. Now, if people decide to escalate and they want to go to war, so to speak, with Daniel, and they want to make videos and they want to do refutations, they want to do this and that, then I'm going to respond in kind, okay? I'm just like Iran, okay, in that way. I'm just like Iran in that way. I'm not going to be the aggressor. But if you attack me, there's going to be a response, right? You're going to attack me, I'm going to have to defend myself and maybe teach you a thing or two. That's all I have to say. Real Hashem says, we got Nejdi supremacism before GTA 6. Yankees fan says, South Lebanon has been completely isolated because we are majority Shia. Where are the Sunnis nowadays for our genocide? Even the Sunni PM of Lebanon is willing to sign with Israel. Haram alaik, ya Muslimin. Yeah. I was saying that earlier today. Like, Israel is annexing southern Lebanon. Where is the so-called leadership? Like, we're just going to allow Israel to annex the entire Muslim world? All these countries, like, just like Mike Huckabee said, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, like, they can take it all. So we're just going to sit back and let them do this, apparently. It's shocking. Like, it's shocking, and we can't do anything. Why? Because Iran is Shia. Iran is Shia, and we can't unite with them. We can't unify. So we just have to be genocided. Yemeni says, Syria is a perfect example why Iran should intervene. Look at Yemen or look at Syria. Syria went Wahhabi route. Look now, they see Shia as a bigger threat. It's a problem. Ridwana says, are the Wahhabiyya racists? Some of them are, I think. They don't seem to care too much about Sudan for some reason. Is it because they're black Africans? Maybe. Wasim Akhtar says, Brother Daniel, how do you respond to Al Islam Productions video against you, Sheikh Yasser Hanafi, Sheikh Rashid, and Sheikh Haroon Kanj. Oh, Asrar Rashid. Yeah, they made a video, but I don't take those people seriously. It's sad, like how they've let sectarian hate like completely cloud their judgment and really tarnish their name. But as I said, like if they have a problem, like they have a problem with allying with Iran and Shia Sunni unity, take it up with Mufti Taqi Uthmani. Okay, the authorities within Deoband, because Al Islam Productions are Deobandi, the authorities like Mufti Taqi Uthmani and even one of the main principal teachers of one of the major madaris in Pakistan, or the head of all of the madaris in Pakistan, came out with a statement in support of Iran and saying, we have to support Iran, we have to back, we'll even send soldiers, mujahideen, to fight with Iran. That's what their authorities, the Deobandi authorities. Look at what the Taliban is saying. The Taliban are Deobandi. The Taliban also in support of Iran. How about Al-Islam Productions, like find their manhood and actually make a video and accuse the Taliban, Mufti Taqi Uthmani of being Iranian stooges? Why don't they do that? This is, like I said, like this is the cowardice, this is the selectivity. Like you can make a video about Daniel. Go ahead, make a video about me. Make a video about Sheikh Yasser Hanafi or Sheikh Asrar Rashid or Sheikh Haroon Kanj. Go ahead and make a video, but you're too scared to call out the Palestinians themselves, who are also calling for unity, or call out Mufti Taqi Uthmani, call out the other ulama of Deoband who are on this position. There was also another, who is the scholar who actually visited, like, or went to like an Iranian, in Pakistan, like an Iranian center, and was standing in front of like a big poster of Khamenei and was expressing support for Iran. I forgot the scholar's name. He was a big alim, okay, of Deoband, and Sheikh Yasser Hanafi shared it. Why isn't Al-Islam Productions and that whole channel, why aren't they criticizing that? Just when you have a selectivity that makes you look biased, it also makes you look like a coward. It also makes you look unprincipled. It discredits you. Farzad says, I think you're being naive when it comes to Pakistan and Turkey. Look, Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, like all these countries have things that you can criticize. I've been criticizing things with these countries for a long time, okay? Just recently with Pakistan bombing Afghanistan. I criticize them, but I don't lose sight of the bigger goal and the bigger danger, the bigger threats. The biggest threat is the influence of the US and Israel. That is the biggest threat, hands down, in this moment in history. And so while we criticize these governments, even Saudi Arabia, even UAE, we criticize them, but we still aspire, we hope that they're going to change. Like they're going to change and they're going to make better decisions. Like that's the goal. And these countries are better than the others. Like some countries are better and some countries are worse. And the facts will justify that. And that's why I try to share with you. Leo says, are you aware Assad promoted Sunni and 12er unity, encouraged mosques over shrines, limited Nowruz and Christmas, taught Sunni and Shia Islam, and prayed like Sunnis? Is calling him a kafir accurate? Yeah, I guess Assad did have some of these kinds of initiatives in line with what Iran has promoted as well in the region. He did pray like a Sunni. Is calling him a kafir accurate? I don't know. Like, this is what people dispute. Like, if he was actually a Nusayri, believed in Alawi beliefs, that Ali, the fourth caliph, is the manifestation of God on earth. Like, if that's what he believed, then of course he would be a kafir. If that's not what he believed, and he was kind of Alawi only, like, in a nominal sense, then that's a different situation. Then I don't know. So, people have claimed that he didn't have those beliefs. Okay, like it's not my place to call him a kafir or not a kafir, or with any of these rulers. With any of these rulers, it's not my place. I leave that to the scholars. I leave that to the ulama. As a layperson, takfir is not my responsibility. Yeah, but if he was like actually a Nusayri Alawi, okay, then yes, he would be a kafir. He would be a kafir. So. Jawad says, would you rather China win or the US? At this point in time, like China, because China is not controlled by Israel. So that's pretty basic. Okay, that is our stream. That is the reaction. Less than 3 hours. Appreciate everyone contributing to the super chat and leaving your comments. We had like a bunch of super chats. That's why it took so long to get through them. But let me know what you think in the comments. I do check comments after the live stream has ended. So let me know what you think. Am I off base with this? Am I right? Is Uthman bin FAROOQ right? Give me your perspective. And I hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to have more Haqiqatjou coming up next week. More content for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Support our channel through subscription. Like the video. Leave a comment. You can also go to MuslimSkeptic.com for more content. And you can also support us through MuslimSkeptic.com as well. We have a donation page there as well. So appreciate all of you. Let's end by making dua for the entire ummah, for making dua for Palestine, Iran, Lebanon, Syria, the Sudan, Yemen, and the Muslims of the entire world. May Allah protect them. May Allah bless them. May Allah grant them success in this life and the hereafter. This is our sincere dua for the entire ummah, for the Muslims of the world. And we have to keep all of the oppressed Muslims in our dua every single day, after every single prayer. I hope you're praying. And that is the weapon of the believer, is dua. That's how I will end the stream, bi'idhnillah. We'll see you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.